Hey guys, welcome back to channel. So today we going to see what if Lusty Kaiju got inside the Naruto and make host and have massive harem with FEM KAIJUs. Let's start. Chapter 1. Waking up. Thank you Sakura-chan and Obito. Said a very relieved Naruto. They've been fighting Kaguya Otsutsuki for hours. She was one of the most difficult bodies to beat so far. She has transported the team multiple times throughout dimensions. First a lava dimension, then an ice dimension, successfully separating Sasuke for the moment. The two of them could seal her away before anything else happens. However, she was making it very difficult. Earlier Kaguya went to deal with Naruto. The crafty ninja began drawing aid from the tailed beasts within him, plowing through Kaguya's defensive and quickly overwhelming her with a massive army of his shadow clones. The princess quickly retreats through her portal, to which Naruto quickly follows through, as does Obito along with Sakura and Naruto clone. While the shadow clone quickly disperses, Black Zetsu is shocked that Naruto could follow them to the base world of Kaguya's various dimensions. While Kaguya is determined to reclaim the massive chakra within Naruto, Black Zetsu points out that Naruto is too dangerous and should just take the easier route of killing him. Dismayed in agreeing, Kaguya then launched a jagged bone barrage on Naruto that impales him and starts to disintegrate. Then Kaguya returned to the normal dimension, only to find that Naruto's shadow clone army didn't disperse. She comes to realize that the body she killed was a well-disguised clone, and then sees that only the true Naruto, among the clones, possesses the truth-seeking balls on his back. Cutting through Naruto's clones trying to kill the real one, Kaguya was unaware of Obito and Sakura's rescue of Sasuke from her desert dimension until now. "We have no choice, Mother," Black Zetus says. "Mother, we have no choice. There is no time to save chakra." "I know," she replies. Using her third eye, Kaguya teleported them all to a dimension with heavy gravity in an effort to pin them down to finally rid of the two pests. Everything fell with a mighty thud. The clones began to disperse, leaving behind a cloud of smoke. No matter how hard they tried, no one could move a muscle. "My body, feels heavy," Obito commented. "Thanks for, pointing that out, Captain Obvious." Sasuke shot at his clansman. He struggled to sit up. Naruto wasn't faring any better. "This is bad." The two of them looked at the downed princess. She was in the same condition as them. However, two bony jagged spikes shot out of her palm of her hands as she lifted them up. Kakashi and Obito watched in horror as the two bone spikes appeared to move in slow motion before them. They couldn't move. Kakashi, despaired, knew they would not be able to reach the two in time. Both veteran ninjas managed to get to their feet. It was too late. Sakura screamed. Tears trickled down her face. Her two comrades have been shot, one in the shoulder and the other in the chest. Naruto, Sasuke. The final look in their eyes as they began to disintegrate was one of dismay. Finally, they were nothing but dust. "Minato-sensei. Forgive me. I failed." The dimension shifted again, this time back to where every shinobi was captured in the infinite Tsukuyomi. Black Zetus cackled. "With those two out of the way, there is nothing you can do to stop us. Join the rest of your fellow shinobi." When two pair of eyes opened, they looked at each other. They knew that they were dead. Everything was white and it seemed to go on forever. Not a word was sound between the two. It was over. They lost. All their friends trapped within that damned infinite dreaming. "Would you like to start again?" a voice called. They looked around. "Who's there?" "Start over again?" "Yes. Only one of you can go back, perhaps?" "I won't ask again. Who are you?" Sasuke said, irritated. A blinding light engulfed the plain. Before them stood a female, dark chocolate hair tied in a ponytail, pale eyes, with a black kimono with flowers on them, her face heart-shaped as her bangs framed them. "Have you ever heard the expression, 'Fate is a cruel mistress'?" The two shinobi stood silent. "Do you want to? Why such a metaphor?" "Because death is inevitable, and virtually all extramarital affairs lead to unhappy outcomes. It even suggests that fate is an inevitable influence, is not only hazardous, but can be oblivious to the feelings of those it affects." "Then you must be." She nodded her head again. She slides her hands into her sleeves of her kimono. "I will ask you again, descendants of Indra and Ashura, do you want a second chance or not? Only one of you can go back, and Naruto, you have been chosen for that very chance." Darkness. All he saw was darkness as he felt himself slowly drifting in the endless abyss. Then coldness. The cold continued to crawl over him slowly. He felt himself getting to the cold, as if he was adapting. Where am I? He heard himself speak even though it was a thought. Everything was pitch black, then he saw it a moment later a small white light, it was that of a small flame. He gazed at it wondering what it would do. The light started to turn in intensity as it glowed. He shielded his eyes as the entire plane shifted into a white space. It wasn't anything special but he could have sworn he heard the rushing of waters like that of waterfall. The plane shifted again this time into a forest. It was very serene and then a voice called out, "Welcome." Spinning around he was face to face with a tall and pale-skinned man, who had deep wrinkles and a strong jawline. He had spiky, shoulder-length, pale brown hair, with a chin-length, braided lock hanging in front of his left ear. He also sported a goatee, which was long having a pair of horn-like protrusions extending from either side of his forehead. His eyes roamed taking this old man features. He wore a white, full-length kimono with a pattern of 6 black magatama around a high collar, beneath which, he wore a necklace which was also made up of 6 black magatama. On the back of his kimono was a larger, black rinnegan marking with a pattern of 9 magatama arranged in 3 rows of 3 beneath it. "Yo, you're the sage of the 6th path, Hagoromo Otsutsuki," the young man stuttered. Yes I am," he replied with a chuckle, "and I have neither seen you before in any of the elemental nations, so my friend, who are you?" The young man began to lightly chuckle, then his chuckles began to turn into guffaws. "Ha ha 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 ha. This has got to be a dream. I always have dreams like these, in which case I should be waking up any moment now. A few minutes passed by and nothing happens. Any minute now I'll be back in my cozy bed going to my job tomorrow. 1 second passes by. Any second now, 2 seconds passes by. A total of 10 seconds went by and still the floating man was still in his presence. Looking around awkwardly he went about to pinch himself awake, yet when the sudden pain in his backhand was noted he realized, this was not a dream. This is real, of course this is real, if it wasn't I would not be able to speak with you the way I am doing so now. The elder man floated close to him, so let me repeat my question again, who are you and what are you doing here in my plane? Why'd I not sense any chakra from you? The young man blinked and blinked again. Ever so slowly did he cross his arms while resting his chin on the palm of hand, not sure how to take this situation at hand. He sighed. "Alright, I'll go along with the gag." He cleared his throat. "My name is K. Bartholomew Echevarria and you are not supposed to be real," he said, pointing his finger accusingly at the man. "Oh, care to explain?" he challenged with a smirk. "If I don't like what I hear, consider your life forfeit?" "You're kidding, right?" The small smile said, "Otherwise, you wouldn't believe me even if I told you." K deadpanned. "Try me." After 2 hours of Q&A, the older shinobi stroked his long goatee. His closed eyes pondering all that was said, K sat in front of him, his eyes hard as he watched intently what the sage of 6th path was thinking. Would he believe him? After all, it wasn't every day you find yourself in front of the god of ninjas, even though he felt that this was still a dream. "So," he began, "you come from a world that is considered reality while my world is fiction. Interesting indeed." He opened his eyes. "What's even more surprising from what I can gather because of my mistake in choosing my youngest son instead of my oldest to be my successor." They become engrossed in a family feud which Indra started to reclaim what he thought he lost. Each generation they were reincarnated until the very end, which lands on the child of prophecy Naruto, as you call him, breaking the cycle of hatred in end. And to sum it up, my mother KAIJU will return during a great shinobi war which is occurring now due to Black Zetsu interfering with the Uchiha stone tablet I made. Basically, the young man said, "Wait, the 4th shinobi is ongoing?" A small gurgles in the ancient shinobi throat as if he was ignoring him. A moment of silence passes by. "I believe you." "Wait, that's it? My eyes can detect if you were lying or not, plus when I looked into your eyes I found no deceit in you at all as we conversed." He said, "It is said that eyes are the window to the heart and you have a pure heart." "Oh, okay." A thought crossed his mind. "Do you mind sending me home now?" The sage had another idea in mind. "Well, I would send you home, however I do have proposition for you." "Why do I get the feeling I'm not going to like this?" "Trust me, this is once in a lifetime opportunity that we are in," he said with a small smirk. "With all that you have said, I can't imagine what it's like for the child of prophecy to grow up alone and eventually turn into a fine young man. You already know how the story is going to be like since you read about it, but how about experiencing it firsthand?" Before he could reply, they were interrupted by a sudden pulse that fabricated thought out his plane. "Seems like we have visitors." Come. The young man was hesitant for a moment or two. Upon seeing his hesitant action he smiled, reassuring him. Come now. I don't bite. I sense 2 chakra signature, it wouldn't be right to keep them waiting. With reluctance he left with the older man in a blinding light. Moments later they appeared in the same flash of light. Kay turned green, wanting to vomit. The sensation passed when he heard voices all too familiar from a certain TV show yelling, with the anger and annoyance all around him. So this is what it's like to feel everything on a spiritual level, everything so heightened, even my 5 senses. Blinking away the bright light for his eyes to readjust themselves, he finally focused on 2 familiar figures in a heated argument. They listened to what the conversation was about. What did you do? What is going on here? Naruto demanded. Dobi, now is not the time. He batted Naruto's hands away from his shirt. This is your fault, Teme. If you didn't have to leave the village, then none of this would be happening. We could have stayed as family and we could have helped you, Yano. I told you once, but in case you didn't get it through your thick skull, let me reiterate what I told you at the valley end. I don't need your help. You don't know the pain that I've been through, but I can see you understanding now. The stoic teen said, right now I want to change my life and I have asked fate if this was possible. Kay interrupted the conversation. While that's all said and good, Sasuke, the chances of you wanting a second chance and being granted is pretty slim to none. Both teens turned to face the unfamiliar young man along with the sage of the 6th path. His eyes narrowed. And you are, who now? Call me a fan. Kay stated, simply shrugging. I know who you both are, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. Both hailing very powerful clans and one of the greatest rivals in the history of shinobi. One who carries the Kyuubi, or can I call him Kurama? Hated by all the villagers until one day Pain attacked and now is celebrity. This got the blonde-haired ninja on guard. The other who had family and was willing to get revenge on his brother no matter what the cost, until he was mad with power for finding out the truth, as well into wanting to destroy the very source of his clan, Pain. Usually Sasuke was emotionless, but this short summary of his life caused him to blaze his M's to life, spinning wildly. You seem to know a lot about us, so it's fair or else things will get ugly pretty quickly, Sasuke said. Naruto cracked his knuckles as if to agree with his rival friend's statement. Relax, I mean, you no harm, I just know a lot about you guys is all, he replied. The two stared skeptically. Even if I did fight you two somehow, I doubt I would last 20 minutes against the likes of you, since you do have the power of the sage of the 6 paths, don't you? Who is this guy? Hagoromo Oji-san? Naruto asked, pointing his finger at Kay. He isn't anyone I've seen before. Sasuke facepalmed. Way to state the obvious, Baka. Oi, nobody asked you, Teme. And I'm ignored. He is trustworthy, I've seen that he is not lying, nor is he from our world. Hagoromo said. 10 seconds passed by. Sasuke and Naruto eyes bugged out after that information finally processed. Nani? Thanks for blowing my ears out. Kay rubbed both his ears gently. But, Naruto brain exploded, not allowing a single correct sentence to form. How? Sasuke asked, his voice found. You got me there. Kay rubbed his chin. One moment I'm falling asleep and the next thing I know I'm surrounded by light, then, bam, right in front of the sage of the 6th path. Well, this is a surprise. A feminine voice spoke as a figure appeared near them. Hagoromo, she bowed out of respect. Please don't do that, you know how I hate formalities between friends, he said with a small smile on his face. Well, no matter what, I will continue to do so because you are the only one who deserves my respect, unlike a certain Uchiha, she stated, a matter of fact. Sasuke growled. I want to go back, I can change. No, I will not allow it, she said with finality in her voice. It's because of your clan's accursed cycle of hatred that I will not permit it. I doubt even if I did send you back that anything would change. You are unworthy for a second chance. I demand that you send me back. Sasuke gritted his teeth while his fist clenches and unclenches. Your Uchiha status has no affect here. Stop acting like a spoiled brat. Even in the real world, you expected everyone to give you what you want. Naruto glared at Sasuke. Face the facts, Sasuke, we're dead. Did you guys kill each other while at the valley end when you fought a second time? How do you know about? Naruto asked, stupefied. Kay sighed. I'll take that as a yes. Ah yes, the anomaly. When I am done with these two I will make sure to take you back to your own world. Fate said, placing both hands on Kay and Naruto's shoulders. Perhaps we can find an alternate solution to this dilemma we are having. The sage said. Fate inclined her head for the god of shinobi to speak. Sasuke wants to go back and redeem himself after finding out the truth of his brother's past as well the demise of his clan. However, you feel that if he does go back he will jeopardize himself and nothing will change. You know me too well, Hagoromo. Then what do you propose that I do? Fate asked. Send me. The quiet request came now. All eyes are on K. He swallowed his nervousness, then taking a breath. I know more than enough about Naruto and his world that he comes from, and I would like experience firsthand what it's like to be a shinobi. Not only that, I would like to be like him in terms of Jinchuriki while inhabiting the body of said person of my choosing. He had a sneaky suspicion this is what the sage of the sixth path was implying. I don't mean inhabiting Naruto body either. Naruto gaped like a fish. Someone was willing to be a human sacrifice to inhabit just to see how it felt like. He couldn't allow that to happen. You don't have to do that, Dabbeo. You don't understand the loneliness or the glares or hatred that villagers will have on you. My life was a living hell. Nobody will would you want because of that status. Kay smiled. While I appreciate the concern, knucklehead, I know exactly what I am requesting, but instead going back as you like I mentioned, I would like to be Sasuke. This completely caught the young Uchiha off guard. Someone was willing to go back to be him? Why? What was this guy motivation? Not only that make him be a Jinchuriki? Normally I wouldn't care, but I will not be silent no more about this matter. Why me? Kay shifted his body and head to be focused on the now dead Uchiha. Couples of reason. Number 1, you are a fan favorite and one of my favorite characters. Number 2, I can't be Naruto or any other male characters for the reasons why I can't be outgoing or being the unpredictable ninja that he is. Kiba too overconfident, and there is no doubt in my mind Akamaru or Sume will know a change in personality. Shino is quiet, but the bugs living inside of him is something where I draw a line. Neji could be a possibility, but one false move from me and Uncle Hyuga will use that cage seal on my mind in case of threat to either the Hyuga clan or princess. Neither do I want to be a slave to the main branch. I value freedom in order to be caged. While the three boys conversed, they didn't notice Hagoromo and Fate having small smiles on their faces as they continued to listen while Kay stated he would be the new Sasuke Uchiha. Finally, number 3, I already have a plan on how to at least save a few Uchiha members, mainly your mother and Izumi, and even the children if I can put a plan into action. Being a Jinchuriki is only an added bonus since I would eventually put me on a closer level to understanding what it is to suffer with something like that in gut. Sasuke scowled. And of my father? Are you not going to save him as well? Kay fully turned. Let me worry about the Uchihas I have in mind. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Besides, your father really wanted the Uchiha to treat it as equal among the village. It was due to the discrimination of Tobirama that he created the police force to take careful watch of the clan. Need I mention Danzo? Yeah, real nice on solving Sasuke clan, but what about me? Naruto asked eagerly. Kay saw that he was desperate for an answer from him. Are you going to save my father as well as my mother? The young brown-haired man smiled. I might have an idea on how to save them. Yada. The blonde ninja air pumped. What do you have in mind? Have you ever heard of Gojira? Fate's smile turned into a jaw drop. In a different universe, Los Angeles, Tuesday morning. The city of San Francisco is devastated. Buildings turn to rubble and local personnel with the help of the military are in the middle of helping survivors from the fallen building debris. You see, what had transpired here that made this famous city a wasteland was 3 monsters of titanic proportion torn it down while trying to be dominate than the other. 2 of these creatures were called MUTO, acronym for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism. The third was reptilian in appearance, named by the scientist Godzilla. The other beings prehistoric parasites. Their sole goals revolve around consuming radiation and reproduction. The male, being the first member to be encountered, is described as young, growing, and looking for food before meeting with the female, so he consumes radiation to gain strength. When he encounters Godzilla for the first time, he reacts with hostility and becomes defensive, attacking him whenever an opportunity becomes available and evading when possible. The female, once the male had matured enough, awakened from her dormancy and traversed through Las Vegas and other environments to meet with the male, who brought with him a nuclear warhead as a sign of courtship for their eggs to feed upon, and showed some sign of affection as they rubbed their snouts together as a greeting. She seemed to exhibit pain when laying her eggs in the MUTO nest in San Francisco, and became hostile and defensive when Godzilla appeared and fought with him alongside the male MUTO to defend their nest. After a long struggle, Godzilla became victorious over the two and the said giant reptilian creature collapses on the city's shoreline. People thought it was dead because of the fight. The news helicopter captured footage of the creature while workers continued to find lost people. With the title of the news said, "Thousands still missing," with many people still being reunited with loved ones with tears of joy for those who are most fortunate. Back at the shoreline, the large ancient reptile huffed. Many froze, turning their gaze towards the creature, waiting to see what would happen next. Its eyes open with a daze and slowly stands up. Tiredly it walks away from the people as they watch the creature slowly walking to the docks. News helicopter captured footage of the creature with title that has said, "Godzilla, King of Monsters, Savior of our city." Godzilla lets out a final roar before returning to the ocean to lay dormant once again, until he was needed to bring order back to the world. After a lengthy swim, the creature submerges itself to the deepest trenches of the deep, with the wounds from his battle. His tired mass urged him to rest, but he ignored the protest of his body to go even deeper. The kaiju had enough of actively swimming. Finally he reached the rock bed surrounded by volcanoes that were embedded with radioactivity, with the heat from them keeping him warm. Fate is surely a true mystery, because unknown to the creature it would be taken from his home world in order to be a balance in unknown familiar world. He slowly closed his eyes so he can rest more, but he didn't notice that a white portal with a symbol of Shu Song covered his entire body and within a flash was transported to another world. Back at the plane, Fate was screeching her mouth towards Kei. She already gave him an earful why he shouldn't be playing with forces that he didn't understand. Kei nervously defended himself by saying it was the only way to understand Naruto, not only his situation but to have that deep connection with him. "Kami will have my head for this. Just so you can bond further is not a valid reason for you to be accepting of Naruto friendship." Fate palmed her face. "I can't believe you talked me into this." Hagoromo stroked his beard. "I too am curious to see this Gojira that Kei-kun has mentioned to stop Kurama the night of the attack, yet sending the creature a year earlier to recover, very clever." Kei chuckled a bit. "I figured why not, since he was going out of a battle." He scooted away from the only female as she was dangerously looking at him with pure murder in her eyes. "So what does this Gojira look like?" Naruto asked, while his companion pretended not to be interested in the conversation he was. "I mean, I know there are only 9 Biju, so why want your own? It would make the experience much more, how should I say, cool." Kei thought with a smirk on his face, picturing what it would be like to have his own Charka mode or something similar to that. Plus it's a badass monster with a badass character. Sasuke smirked, his ego inflating. Naruto wasn't pleased seeing the smug look on Sasuke's face. "Oh come on, I'm just as cool and badass as Sasuke, and if you are from another world that knows my backstory then you know how badass I am, Dabbeo. Sorry loser, but the guy wants to take over my life as me. Better luck next time." "Shut it, Teme. If there is a next time." Fate mumbled, crossing her arms. She continued to glare at Kei, then suddenly she sensed something. "He's here." All eyes focused on a white portal that opened, taking the shape of something humongous in the ocean as a window opened. Once the light stopped illuminating Sasuke and Naruto, jaw dropped. They gaped at this very squarely faced reptile. Its neck is broad and has shark-like gills. The head and neck seem to lean forward more and the nostrils are more separate, being on opposite sides of the snout. Dorsal fins have this maple leaf shape, although straighter and very sharp looking, somewhat jagged. The claws are black in color, and his feet are wider, resembling elephant's feet with larger claws. The skin is crocodile-like, looking rough, and is a very dark gray, almost black color. His body and tail are very wide as well, making him look somewhat bulky. There are exactly 89 dorsal spines running down his back. The palm of his hands are 34 feet and 4 inches each. So, how big is it? Don't know, never bothered checking. Height. You are going to seal that thing in me? Sasuke asked skeptically. Yup. You are out of your mind. Yup, he simply replied. Don't even worry about it, besides it will be me taking over your body and life, so I know what I am doing when asking of this from fate. So gentleman and lady, meet the king of the kaiju. I still don't approve. This could bring an imbalance towards his world and the shinobi world. I can't imagine the consequences that will follow after this. The female repressed a shiver going down her spine. She had seen what happens when the king of the kaiju is going on a destructive rampage. The Godzilla I've chosen is like a force of nature, neutral. He simply considers humans to be tiny and insignificant and does not care about their general well-being, but at the same time does not consider them worth destroying. Kei said, Do you want the other, original, Godzilla? She shivered. No thank you. Then she said, hurry up, I want to send you back in time to fix his mistake. So have we made a decision? Three looked at each other, but two of the three nodded their heads. We have. I still think it should be me going instead of him or the Dobi. Sasuke crossed his arms on his chest. This guy looks like he hasn't picked up a weapon or even killed anything in his life. I feel he's too soft. Kei couldn't disagree with him there. Never in life has he ever lived the hard life, nor has he ever been situation of life or death. Speaking of death, he has seen it with his own eyes, been to many funerals, but he wasn't afraid of it. It won't work. The last Uchiha stated, Oi, give him a chance. Naruto countered, if thinks that he can do something for the both of us, then let him. Besides, it all about growing up. I can tell he is everything you're not, Uchiha. He has the right quality, and has everything a person needs to love him. Fate looked at them warmly. Very well, Kei. I entrust you will live the life of Sasuke with this kaiju as your partner. You must place your soon-to-be friends and family above yourself and try to save everyone, even though people are going to be against you. So I have said, so it shall be done. Kei nodded, releasing a breath he didn't know he was holding. While Sasuke is right that I don't know what the hard life is like for someone that grew up without parents or watching my loved ones killed off. He addressed the young Uchiha. I know what it's like to lose. I've seen and heard of many people that I've known in my life who suffered with illness, and I've learned that a few days later or the following day passed on. Do you want to know where it hurts? He pounded his chest. Right there, and despite all that I've tried to make in on faith to keep me strong, but don't expect me to kill anyone. So you believe in deity? Sasuke asked. You understand that in the shinobi world you will be required to kill even if it's for your survival? I do. Well, before you leave, let me part you with a small gift. Hagoromo said, interrupting the conversation. Stretch out your hand, Kei-kun. Kei did, and suddenly he could sense very powerful signatures all around him. I've imparted to you chakra along with the gift of your own personal Sharingan. After your mission is completed, I will require it back. Kei's body began to glow. Well, I guess this is see you later. With one final look at the being called Fate, Hagoromo, Sasuke and Naruto, he was gone like a leaf in the wind. But not before Naruto told him, good luck. October 10th. A year later, after arriving beneath the world's oceans lie rugged mountains, active volcanoes, vast plateaus and almost bottomless trenches. The deepest ocean trenches could easily swallow up the tallest mountains on land. Around most continents are shallow seas that cover gently sloping areas called continental shelves. These reach depths of about 650 feet. The continental shelves end at the steeper continental slopes, which lead down to the deepest parts of the ocean. Beyond the continental slope is the abyss. The abyss contains plains, long mountains ranges called ocean ridges, isolated mountains called seamounts, and ocean trenches, which are the deepest parts of the oceans. In the centers of some ocean ridges are long rift valleys, where earthquakes and volcanic eruptions are common. Some volcanoes that rise from the ridges appear above the surface as islands. Other mountain ranges are made up of extinct volcanoes. Some seamounts, called guyets, are extinct volcanoes with flat tops were bubbling in excitement, though one certain mountain began to move forwards from the depths of the sea. Godzilla awoken. The creature sensed some sort of disturbance and investigation was required to find the source of the strange phenomenon. There was something in the air that wasn't the same. He arose from his laying grounds to determine what was going on. Near the coastline of the Land of Fire, a fishing boat was out in the ocean with its fishermen trying to catch food to provide for their families. It was a hard job, but it was the only lifestyle they knew that, in selling them to clients for profit. There was about 5 fishermen on the Bekabune, each with a fishing line with a bell attached to the tip out to sea, waiting to have a bite. The fishermen' ages ranged from young, about 8, to at least 40 years of age. It was a calm afternoon that was leading itself to the night. They were resting their eyes, so to speak, and when I mean they, I meant the adults who were snoring waiting for the bells to ring. The young lad who was dignity waiting for the bell to start ringing had a face of determination. His patience paid off as he saw the line being tugged in the particular area facing north. Ecstatic as he was, the boy reached over to his father. Tucson, I got something on the line. The boy was beaming with pride. The man who was his father abruptly awoke from the excitement and ringing of the bell. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, the man quickly moved towards the line, trying to reel in the fish. Pulling on it, the line struggled as the fight ensued. It was a few moments before the line went slack. The father gleamed with happiness. A fish to eat tonight. Once he pulled the line towards the boat, but he stopped. The boy looked confused as his father just stopped reaching down for the catch. He could have sworn he heard something like rushing water in the distance. He looked up to find a massive dark object coming straight towards them. The boy looked at his father, then in the direction. The two opened their mouths to scream, but it caught in their throats when the boat toppled by the wave the landmass provided. The 5 fishermen floated to the surface in time to spit the salt water out of their mouths to watch something that will forever be ingrained in their memories until the day they die. Out from the ocean and rising to full height, a good 108.2 meters, standing on 2 hind legs, the beast was enormous. In great awe they watched as the creature with charcoal black scales, with a long powerful tail swaying a bit, and generally bone-black jagged dorsal plates boomed on land with every step it took. It roared a deafened sound that made them cover their ears from bleeding out. Skreonnnnkkkk. They watched as it made its way on land. They could only pray, hoping whoever comes into contact with this beast will not savor its wrath. Konoha, the hidden village of the Land of Fire. As the village of one of the 5 great shinobi countries, Konohagakure has a KAIJU as its leader known as the Hokage, of which there have been 4 in its history. Konoha resides deep within a forest at the base of a mountain known as the Hokage Rock, which has the faces of all those who have taken the office of Hokage engraved on it. While generally seen as the most powerful of the ninja villages, Konoha has enjoyed many years of relative peace and stability. Yet tonight that peace has been disturbed. People were in streets panicking as the genin were herding them to the safety zones. The Kyuubi was attacking Konoha. It swung it on of its powerful tail into one of the skyscraper, crushing with little effort. Using its powerful roar, it flattened many buildings that were caught in its blast, reducing it to mere rubble. It roared through the night sky as rampage continued, and in less than half hour the massive beast already destroyed 2/3 of the city and its outlying lands. Ninja from Chunin, Junin, and Special Junin were called in order to stop the Titan from destroying more of their precious village, as well help the evacuation of many towards safety. Medical nin were very thinned out from taking care of the wounded to the elderly, even taking care one of their comrades as the Kyuubi destroyed more of their home. The Sandame was wearing a black jumpsuit, which featured mesh segments over the lower portions of his limbs, and a gray gauntlet that covered his right wrist, forearm and elbow. He also wore an armored hood with a bandana-like Konoha forehead protector over this, which featured 2 long straps. He and a group of 10 ninjas watched from afar, as the Kyuubi destroyed everything in its path. He very disturbed that many lives would be lost tonight, and he could not stand it, prepare to move out men and to engage the Kyuubi. His name Sarutobi Hiruzen, the 3rd Hokage of Konohagakure. A disciple of the village's previous Hokage, Hiruzen was a powerful ninja, hailed as a god of shinobi. His title was the Professor, because he knew every non-hidden jutsu in Konoha. Right. They shouted in unison. All right, let's move. Yes, sir. It was a long, fierce battle between the forces of Konoha against this titan of destruction. Clans from all over the village came to support the former leader of the Hidden Leaf. Leaders from different clans came to assist in battle. Choza from Akamichi clan, Sume from the Inuzuka clan with her pack of ninja and their dogs, and Inoichi from the Yamanaka clan. Choza, using a super expansion jutsu, going in head-on collision with the fox, whom almost bit his head off, mind you, managed to throw the damn beast off balance, making it skid towards another part of town, where the 3rd managed to land a few hits with his oversized stick, or his summon. It was then followed up with the Inuzuka famous Fang over Fang, as all the members combined into one super giant Fang over Fang. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to make the fox fatigue of battle. It just made the fox even angrier than before when it originally got to the village hidden in the leaves. The fox, grabbing nearby rubble, chucked at the forces, causing them to disperse and regather in another building. One of the leaf ninjas was dismayed. Even after all of that, it still won't let up. We cannot give up hope, continue to fight for the sake of protecting the village, think about our future generation. We cannot let the will of the fire burn out this night, the retired man said. A messenger came, a message from Shikaku. He's almost ready with the operation. Good, don't let up the attack until he is ready, the old man said. Yes, sir, Hokage-sama, a man called out from the distance. The 3rd turned to face another comrade. The look of fear didn't pass by the older man. In fact, they were pale as ghost, as if they see one themselves. Report. Another beast has made its way into Konoha, sir. The said ninja. It has broken through the main entrance and it's making its way here, sir. The shinobi that were within an earshot twitched or groaned, as if they didn't have enough problems as it was with the fox. Now another beast is here? Sarutobi pinched his nose. You mean to tell me that another Biju is here? Before the reply came out, the ninjas jumped when the sound of powerful thud was heard. Others turned to see a leg, but not just the leg, their eyes continued to go. The scaly beast behind the third could only gawk with others as he viewed something monstrous coming to view that even the nine tails snarled in rage, sensing this predator dominance. Groarr. Godzilla had entered the battle. He gazed at this monster challenging him. But something in the world was wrong. This wasn't home and it didn't feel like it. Well, no matter, it would soon take care of this creature that was snarling and growling at him. That creature called that a roar? Snorting as if to say, that's it. A not so subtle growl rumbled lowly before SKREONNNKKK. Every single ninja that was within 3 miles of the area had to cover their ears from the sheer strength of that roar. Some who were fortunate to stand, at least those who could keep their balance, held onto their ears from bleeding out. Others had ringing in their ears. Slowly the former Hokage unclasped his ears. What kind of beast is this? Why hasn't any of the other nations reporting sighting such a creature? Before anyone could reply, the nine tails quickly dashed full speed ahead towards the giant lizard-like creature. Look out! Without warning, a giant tail quickly snapped around, hitting the fox square across the face, sending it tumbling over more buildings before it regained composure, skidding to a halt as it dug its nails within the ground. Shaking off the brunt of the attack, to get its head back straight, the fox roared again, ensuing a challenge for the reptile. The challenge was met with another mighty earth-shaking roar. The third could feel sweat pouring down his brow as the monsters engaged in combat, destroying more buildings as the two began to swipe at one another with their vicious claws, trying to draw out blood from another. Stay on guard. Despite that reptilian monster is fighting the Kyuubi at the moment, we won't know its true intention after this, so stay on guard for anything that can happen and prepare for the worst. The third said. He received affirmatives from the surrounding shinobi force. Then in an instant a bright light appeared, their current leader Minato Namikaze with battle wounds. It was apparent that he was in a struggle with someone. What is going on here? We've been busy fighting back the nine tails and suddenly this creature appears out of nowhere. Hiruzen said with bow staff ready in his hand. As you can see, these titans are fighting it out. They watched as Nine Tails knocked over the huge beast with its teeth nabbing the neck of the reptile, who screeched in pain. Blood flowed from his neck as the beast bit into the shoulder of the Kyuubi. It howled in pain as it let go of the neck, trying to claw it out its eye. This was truly a sight to behold as the reptile swipes at the face of the fox, smacking it away from it. Unknown to them, above the chaos and destruction, a floating being hung above the battlefield, observing the phenomenon occurring. Above them was ghostly K. He saw the death of many and even seeing body parts scattered. Many shinobi and civilians that he didn't recognize lying down dead or critically injured. K watched with a neutral face, though in the inside his heart clenched. All this for one girl, Obito? K muttered to himself. Just so you can have your former team suffer because you couldn't get the one girl you treasured the most. He heard another roar from the Kaiju King. He gazed at Godzilla for a moment. I better find Sasuke and fast. I hope to see you soon, Gojira. In inhuman speed, the ghost version of K set off to find the young Sasuke in hopes to change the future, and hopefully he can help Naruto at a much faster pace to achieve his dream of being Hokage. Well, I don't believe in fate, but apparently I have no choice but to. So it's in your hands now, fate, to put the piece in place. Fortunately for him, fate would do exactly what he wished when he took the deal. Chapter 2. Sacrifice. He walked amongst the civilian of the Uchiha district while panic was still ongoing. He saw the earth shake once again while the mighty roars of both Kaiju and Kyuubi were heard in the distance. He sighed again, shaking his head. A lone tear escapes K's weary eyes. He wiped it away. The smell of iron that was in the air because of the attack didn't help either. He kept searching for baby Sasuke, still not having any luck in trying locating the boy. I know Sasuke is with Itachi, I just got to remember where. K said. He paused as another piece of a building fell right on top of him. He came out unscathed, shaking. Well, that was traumatizing, and it won't be the last one either. Scratching his head, he frowned. Now if I was Itachi, where would I be? Screams were heard. Another explosion had occurred. People, a man within an earshot cried out. What's going on? Just run, you idiot. HMPH. Now that's not nice. Kei then snorted a chuckle. Then again, if it was me in a similar position, I'd probably said the same thing. Another gust of wind with flying debris caused more explosions. People went flying around, yet the bright light of Kei dwindled not. Every debris just went right through him. He gritted his teeth. He balled his hand, cracking his bones. When I get to Sasuke and when I befriend Godzilla, if possible I'm going to kick that Ochio's sorry little ass that he'll need an operation to remove my foot from how far deep it is. Then he heard it, a cry of an infant. He snapped his head, looking that way and this way until he found someone hunched over as if protecting something. He ran towards the hunched person. He saw that it was a boy. When the said boy lifted himself up, it was revealed to be none other than a young Itachi Uchiha, and with this young lad was his younger brother Sasuke. Kei sighed in relief as he stood next to the older Uchiha, who was unaware of the stranger. Even during the attack of Kurama, you are still protecting your younger brother. Kei smiled, thinking about his own family with younger siblings. That our job isn't, he said, protecting our family no matter how much we want to strangle them or how much annoyance or foolishness they cause. The crying continued, but Itachi with a smile on his face tried to calm him down. Shish. Sasuke, it's okay now. I know that was a little scary. Itachi stood to full height, surveying the damage. Itachi. Another voice called out. Both Kei and the young Uchiha faced the direction that shout came from, and out of the smoke in Konoha's standard uniform was none other a woman with Sharingan in her eyes, panting slightly, looking frantically for the boy. Ka-san. The woman immediately flickered to his location. The outplace adult surveyed her, giving a low whistle. Due to her appearance, her vest ruined, a chunk of it was missing. Pants ripped in several locations. She was a fair-skinned woman with long, straight black hair with bangs hanging on either side of her face to roughly frame her cheeks and black eyes. On top of her forehead was the leaf headband. She is covered in scratches here and there on her creamy skin, but her Sharingan eyes are with joy when she sees her son. Makoto. Meanwhile, Godzilla pushes the fox back with one of his arms, biting down on its neck. The nine tails yelps in pain before the reptile lets it go, swiping at it, scratching it across the eye. The fox dangerously growls at unknown creature, unleashing a devastating roar, lifting up more debris. The rubble only further annoyed the ancient reptile. The fox picks up a building, throwing it. The kaiju flinched since it was at his face it was thrown. Godzilla shakes it off, yet now in time for the nine tails follows up. The orange furball begins to swat the radioactive lizard with all nine of its tails, face, body, legs, arms, chest repeatedly over and over. A few strikes in and Godzilla had enough with the smacking, decided to let one of those annoyances get close to his mouth. His patience was rewarded when a tail tried to swoop a little to close. With a snap of his jaw, he closed around the nuisance with 90,000 metric tons of pressure, that even the jaw clamp could be heard. The shinobi forces winced at that, even as Kyuubi howled in pain. He lunged forward, clawing at the skin. It was met with a claw as well before it could reach Godzilla. Both combatants were locked in a grip, but the strength of the reptile proved too much as he began to push the fox unknowingly out of the village grounds. Minato could only stare in awe of this majestic yet horrendous beast fighting the fox. Where did this thing come from? We don't know. Hiruzen said, watching Godzilla was able to finally knock the fox down on its back. We do know that at the moment it's on our side, taking down that blasted fox. After that we won't know if this leviathan would turn on us to finish the job. They watched the reptile beginning to stomp on the fox. Hiruzen faced his successor. How's Kushina? Safe with Naruto. Minato said, still on guard but with a sigh of relief. I managed to save them both from a man with an orange mask. A man with an orange mask? Yes. Apparently he was the one who unleashed the nine tails on the village, but I'll spare you the details once we deal with these beasts. Minato gazed, turned hard. I guess I'm going to have to use that jutsu, but who will be willing to sacrifice their child for the Leviathan? I know I'm going to have to seal the nine tails in Naruto, but who will do for the second? Godzilla chest puffed up, ready to finish off his opponent, but one of the tails of the said fox underneath the foot of the giant reptile swatted him in the back, stinging the beast. The reptile grunted in annoyance, then stomped on the fox's back. It howled in pain. Then from a side glance snarled at the larger beast before using two of its tail to grab the hind legs of the kaiju to throw it off balance. With the other creature staggering, the fox lifted itself up, finally breaking free from being stampeded on, then proceeded to tackle the said giant to the ground. Now the shoe was on the other foot as the nine tails began to claw and scratch at Godzilla. The howls and screams of the reptile were heard. Come on. We got to help that beast to drive the fox back, Minato said. Yes, sir. This is an announcement from Konoha Leaf Police Force. All civilians evacuate. The call rang out, head to the southeast shelter. Makoto carried her little boy Sasuke while Itachi jogged to keep up. They stopped in a gasp as they heard and saw a little girl in an alleyway sobbing while trying to call her parents. Izumi? Makoto looks down at her eldest son. Izumi, come here. Her tears-stained eyes turned to see a familiar face with an outstretched hand towards her. She recognized him from school, Itachi. Hurry up. She didn't need to be told twice as she raced towards his hands, wiping away the tears that she had. Quickly Itachi pulled her to her just as a building began to explode. Makoto did her best to shield all three of the children as they rounded the corner in time. She huffed and puffed, this is getting out of hand. Then she looked at both children, then back to her youngest son whom she had in her hands. You two run along to the shelter. I need to find Kushina. Ka-san, it's too dangerous. Itachi, don't worry about me. I'm a ninja and I know the risk, and don't worry about your baby brother, I'll watch over him. I can't explain it, but something tells me I need him with me. She said. A moment of silence ensued as more villagers gathered, being evacuated to the shelter. Makoto spotted her husband. Go. She used the body flicker technique, disappearing in a puff of smoke. I can't explain it, but I just have this sense of urgency to go find Kushina. It's almost as if I know where she is too. Alongside of her was Kei, keeping up with her as she jumped from building to building. It's almost time. I better get inside of Sasuke while I still can, or else who knows what will happen after this. Kei sees Sasuke whimpering as he tries to sleep, then he places his hand on the baby forehead. Immediately, Kei was sucked into the baby, unknown to the Uchiha matriarch of what was transpiring. Baby Sasuke eyes opened, revealing a familiar red Sharingan for a moment before they turned back to coal eyes, then closing in an instant. Within the mindscape of his new body began to formulate a plan. Alright, I'm in his body, so part 1 is now complete. Now it's time for phase 2. Get Godzilla inside baby Sasuke, or should I say me? SKREONNNKKKK. Godzilla smacked the fox with its tail, successfully forcing it out of the village. The Leaf Shinobi were kind enough to allow the bulky lizard to rest for a minute to catch its breath. After finally tearing the fox off of him, he grunted in gratitude. He snarled, it was time to end this fight. That fox was proving too much of a nuisance to deal with. Not only that it had the ability to fire some sort of energy blast similar to his own, yet somehow was different. Godzilla wondered how was it that these humans could perform such feats like breathing fire or transforming into giant turbines things, or even swallow an attack and send it flying elsewhere. He would need to figure it out later. Right now that fox was grating on his last nerves. He saw that fox was charging up another energy blast. Well, two can play that game. Not again. The third smacked his forehead from afar. Minato saw what the Nine Tails were about to do. He had to do something, or else this could prove disastrous. Before he could teleport, in a flash a pair of dorsal fins began to glow. Shocked by this revelation by the Leviathan, he watched in awe as the neon blue lights began flashing from downward up. For those next to the kaiju, they watch in amazement as the blue lights danced upward till they reached a pinnacle. The two beasts fired their attacks, which in turn collided with one another, devastating everything in their wake. Even the Leaf Ninjas had to brace themselves from the sudden impact and gust of wind caused by them. Did you just see that? One ninja exclaimed. The Leviathan can produce his own version of the Biju bomb? Another exclaimed. It appeared that it was a stalemate. However, that wasn't the case for long. Godzilla saw that he was losing ground slowly. That attack from the fox was pushing his atomic breath back. If that attack hit, who knows how severe his wounds would be. His atomic breath was not meant for an offensive like this. It was more for last resort in case all else failed. He couldn't let up, he just couldn't. Determined to gain the upper hand, forced his attack to push back the bomb. The atomic fire breath began to grow in power as the reptile refused to back down. Kyuubi was equally determined to prove his superiority, began to fight back until finally, a huge explosion took place, resulting in both attacks canceled each other out. Another powerful gust of wind forced the Leaf Shinobi to brace themselves. Finally the third stood up, dusting himself off. In all my years of a shinobi, I've never witnessed such an event such as this before. Hokage-sama. Herzuan turned to be faced with none other than Makoto along with her son Sasuke. Makoto-chan. What are you doing here with that baby? Hiruzen couldn't believe his eyes. Actually, none of the other shinobi could believe it either. He was tense as another rumble between the fox and reptile began once again to rumble. My apologies, Hokage-sama, but for some reason, I need to be here with Sasuke. She responded. Witness the giant reptile fight the fox. Makoto, are you out of your mind? This time it was Minato showed up in a bright flash. This is no place for you or your child to be here. I know, Minato-kun. She snapped back with a glare. Although her best friend's husband was in Hokage mode, so the killer intent didn't faze him. I can't explain it, but I got here quick as I could because something is urging me to be here. Minato palmed his face, dragging his fingers slowly down. We'll discuss this feeling of yours later. The older blonde sneaked a peek at the bundle of joy that was sleeping on the woman's back. An awful idea struck him as his Hiraishin did during the Third Shinobi War. Minato flinched at the idea of asking Kushina's best friend to that for the Leviathan, but then again, one beast inside his own son was bad enough. Housing two, that would be ludicrous. I may not have a choice in the matter, grr. Who knows what that oversized lizard is going to do when Nine Tails is defeated? A small groan escapes his throat. He tears his gaze away from baby Sasuke onto the two beasts fighting one another. Godzilla swipes Kurama across the face, then follows up by slamming his hand on his throat to force him back. Makoto. How are Kushina and the baby? Makoto was worried about her friend. I know she gave birth today, but I really don't know if it's a boy or girl. They're safe away from this mess. Minato had a small smile. We had a boy, Naruto. Makoto's face relaxed a moment. Please take me to them if possible, Minato-kun. I would like to know him. Under normal circumstance, I would say no, however these are not normal circumstances, and plus I may have a need to ask you something that would burden your child for life. Minato said the last part grave. I may have to use a certain jutsu in order to do it. It only took the Uchiha matriarch seconds to understand what her current leader was really trying to say. You will not, I repeat will not, put anything in my son. But Uchiha-sama, an Anbu ninja exclaimed, we may not have a choice. Some of the other ninjas didn't understand what they were saying, however for those who did, sympathized with the matriarch of the Uchiha. Nobody wanted to have a life like that. The shinobi couldn't blame her if she refused. Makoto balled her fist, visible shaking. She wasn't going to subject her youngest son to a life of a Jinchuriki. She understood too often the jailer was hated and ostracized by their fellow villagers, treated as no different than the beast they contain. Worst of all, the Jinchuriki were meant to be nothing more than military potential, with little regard for their lives. Minato outstretched his hands towards the woman. Please come with me. Hesitantly, she took his hand. That's when he did a few hand seals after biting his thumb. Kuchiyose no Jutsu. A large frog appeared, dull, rusty red, but around his eyes and on his lips and chest are brighter red markings. Over his left eye, he received a scar. His tongue has a series of stud-like piercings on both the upper and lower side. He wears a large blue happy vest that has the kanji sha on the back and carries a massive dosu blade at his hip. He also carries a large kiseru pipe, which he's smoking from. Well, this certainly is a surprise. A beast just as dangerous as the Nine Tails. Gamabunta, do you know what type of creature is the reptile? Taking his pipe from his mouth, the large frog blew out smoke. Never seen that thing before in my life, Gaki. I'll have to talk with the Toad Sage to see. Well, that's just great. Minato deadpanned. Minato. The said man quickly turned to face Hiruzen. I'm coming with you, and if you are planning to use that jutsu you are going to need a second person to seal that Leviathan. No, I can't let you do that, Sarutobi-sama. The village will need a leader to keep her safe. There will be nothing safe from that Leviathan, and I refuse to let the will of the fire die tonight. His voice left no room for argument. Besides, I lived long enough to see many fine shinobi arise. My time is over, Minato. I'm not growing any younger. We need to seal both of these beasts away. Makoto within her is a wreck between her maternal instincts and logical sides, both sides at war with each other. On one hand, she couldn't allow another innocent life to be quenched by the fighting of these two beasts, yet she was not unable to bear in mind the thoughts of her younger son as a human sacrifice. She needed to make her decision, and fast. Quickly she had Sasuke in her arms, stroking his cheeks. Gamabunta, see if you can get us close enough to the Nine Tails and Leviathan. The toad grunted in response. Hang on. Not used to being on a summoning, she nearly lost her balance if not for the third Hokage steadying her on the head. A few bounces in between Makoto made her decision. Back at the evacuation, Fugaku had short, brown hair that reached to his shoulders and onyx-colored eyes, with visible creases below them. However, they were red tonight. He wore the standard flak jacket, along with a black shirt with the Konoha Military Police Force symbol on the shoulders, shin guards and a black, open front apron with white diamonds on the bottom. He was the captain of the Leaf Military Police Force, some believed to have been founded by the Uchiha. In actuality, it was founded by the second Hokage, and was given to the Uchiha as a sign of trust and good faith between the Senju and themselves. Everyone has been evacuated. Taiko. Fugaku crossed arms, nodding. Taiko, shouldn't we be helping? Fugaku eyes closed briefly before reopening. Regarding his fellow Uchiha officer, the police force will stay out of the affair and guard the civilians. But Taiko, it's a direct order from the village officials themselves. Do you have a problem with that? The man had no time to reply as the earth shook. The two officers looked back. What was that just now? It seems that they sealed the Nine Tails. SKREONNNKKKK. Another rumbling of the earth took place after the mighty roar. It seems that they sealed the second beast as well. Taicho. Tashio. Another officer came racing. He was in front of his commanding officer in seconds. Speak. Your wife, she's been injured. He said in between breaths. She was with your second son as well. Fugaku rarely let his emotion go, but this was an exception. Nani. 4 days later after the attack, the elders of the village council met together to discuss what had happened during the attack of the fox. So, began a black, shaggy-haired man. His right eye was bandaged. He also had an X-shaped scar on his chin. He wore a white shirt, with a black or dark gray robe over the top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder. The robe conceals his right arm that was bandaged, and covered with 3 large golden braces. His name was Danzo Shimura, one of the elders of Konohagakure. Hiruzen and Minato are dead. That's a pity, but they went down protecting the village and will be remembered honorably. However, this puts Konoha in a very vulnerable position without a cage. Others may want to attack. 2 other people in the room nodded their heads, saddened by the tragic loss of their longtime friend and current leader. These 2 are Kaharu Utatane and Homura Mitokado, also elders of the village. Yes, we lost many lives 2 days ago, but we managed to succeed in sealing the Nine Tails away as well as the Leviathan. Homura said, remembering the funeral that took place. All we need now is to rebuild this Leviathan. The reports came in. Kaharu stated, what exactly is it? I find it hard to believe that creature that like exist, plus there are no records of this creature found in any archive. I'm at a loss myself. Danzo places his hand on his chin, closing his left eye, hearing the titanic fight between the fox and reptile. So far nothing has come forward to the light. Even his best operatives en route can't seem to find anything regarding the beast. There was silence for the moment until Danzo spoke once again, picking up the papers that were laid out on a table. There are still too many unanswered questions surrounding the Nine Tails incident. Wasn't Kushina's seal broken? But how do you explain the deaths of Bawako and several Anbu operatives? The only conclusion that I see is that someone is behind this. Like someone from the Uchiha? The old Warhawk stated. The Uchiha can control the Nine Tails with their visual prowess. Without someone controlling it, the incident would have never occurred. Right now we can't do anything without a Hokage. All we have is speculation. Our top priority is to find a suitable candidate for the position of Hokage. Homura said, until then I suggest we hold off, then we will discuss the matter with the leader. The 2 elders agreed. Do we know anyone? Danzo picked up a piece of paper, skimming through the document. He had a frown. According to the report, Minato suggested 2 possible candidates for the position of Hokage before he passed. Oh, who are these 2 candidates? Kaharu asked, curious to hear who these new candidates were. Uchiha Fugaku or Jiraiya of the Sannin. Danzo looked up from the paper. His companions stared at him, dumbfounded look on their faces. I'll make sure that no Uchiha will ever have a seat of power in Konoha. We don't need another Uchiha Madara. He looked back at the document. Though he doesn't show surprise often, a certain Uchiha matriarch was with the 4th and the 3rd in the sealing of the 2 beasts. 2 questions arose from this floundering situation. Number 1, what was Uchiha Makoto doing the night of the attack, and number 2, why? Konoha Hospital serves the medical needs of ninja and other villagers in Konohagakure. Even now after the attack of Kyubi, though the staff is skilled enough to treat most basic ailments, Tsunade and other more advanced medical nin must step in to assist with severe injuries. Many were injured or critically wounded, but for one she was lucky to be alive. Makoto let a small groan escape her lips as her eyes adjusted to the surrounding area. She looked to her right to see her husband in a chair, arms folded across his chest snoring lightly. She then faced the other direction to see a crib. Weakly she lifted her head just a bit to see her second-born child sleeping peacefully sucking on his thumb. She smiled lightly. She then proceeded to shift into a more comfortable sitting position. A sudden jolt of pain coursed through her body. The raven-haired woman let a sigh of relief as she laid down, placing a hand on her bandaged head. How long was I out for? She recalled all that happened. She let a tear escape her as she looked towards the crib. Sasuke. I see you're awake. Her husband said. Makoto shifted her gaze towards him. Fugaku. Reckless woman, he said, you could have gotten yourself killed. What were you thinking? A knock on the door and the voice of her eldest son was heard. Ohio Kasen, I brought you food from the compound straight from Obasan Yoruchi kitchen. I asked one of the nurses if I could prepare the meal for you and agreed. When Itachi entered immediately he could feel the tension in the air. He saw that his mother didn't meet his father's gaze. Instead she clutched her sheet with her knuckles, turning white, emotion that didn't go unnoticed by the Uchiha patriarch or Itachi. Fugaku. There's something I need to tell you. Chapter 3. Position. Konoha Hospital. A week after the attack, Kushina Uzumaki, a former Konohagakure kunoichi who originated from Uzushiyogakure's Uzumaki clan. She was the second Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails after one of her great-grandmother Mito Uzumaki passed on. Kushina is a woman who was well known for her beauty. She has a slender but feminine build, fair skin, violet eyes, and the common Uzumaki red hair. It reached her waist with shoulder-length strands that framed both sides of her face and a black clip that parts her hair to the left. Generally, she wore a high-collared, sleeveless blouse under a long, loose-fitting dress with a wristband on her left wrist and standard shinobi sandals. However, this time she was in the hospital with a hospital gown on as well as a crib very close to her side. Though a bundle of blankets in her arms made a fuss, her little baby boy Naruto, named after one of the characters in her late husband's sensei book. She smiled gingerly at the small child, caressing his cheek, cooing him to calm him. However, the smile died when a knock from the door is heard. Now, normally patients wouldn't mind seeing the doctor or nurse coming in to check up on things or vitals of the said patient, yet in this case Kushina made sure that only Tsunade attended her. Why? Well, let's just say the last nurse who tried to kill her son had to be put in a full body cast, nearly beaten to death. You see, while still an academy student, Kushina proved to be a strong and fierce bare-handed fighter, being able to beat several kids, even a genin half, to death for teasing her color hair, thus earning her the nickname Red Hot-Blooded Habanero, which I can safely add is a flea on sight if any enemy shinobi dare face her. As the door opened, she relaxed to see one of the legendary Sannin. Tsunade Senju, famed as the world's strongest kunoichi and its greatest medical nin to date. She heard what happened during the fox attack, and though she was reluctant to come back due to repeated loss of her loved ones and blood phobia, though she quickly recovered once she overcame it on an operation on a life-or-death situation, it was her distant cousin persuading from her letters that made her came back, including a note that said there had been an assassination attempt on her boy's life, along with she personally wanted her there to attend her. Tsunade was traveling with her lover's niece Shizune, her attendant and apprentice in training as well. The town that they were in was a 3-day journey. After that she took charge of the hospital, personally handling anyone who dares try to do such a vile attempt again. Let's just say they ended in cast armor as well. How are you feeling, Kushina? The blonde asked, closing the door she entered. I'd be better if I can walk around instead being bedridden all day for the last 7 days, but I can't leave Naruto in the care of these incompetent morons. The redhead huffed in annoyance. I know how you feel, Kushina, I really do, and if that was my son's life threatening, I would raise those hospitals from top to bottom just to keep him safe, but he's not. Besides, if these idiots cannot tell the difference between a Jinchuriki and a helpless baby, then that's their problem, which is why I am here. Though I still don't know how you suckered me into coming back, even though I said I would never set foot back here again. The blonde grumbled the last part. Kushina had a smug smile plastered on her features. That's why you are known as the legendary sucker. You lost fair and square, now take your punishment like a kunoichi. HMPH. Her features soften as she stretched out her arms. May I? Kushina nods, handing over baby Naruto to her. She held him in her arms, stroking his whiskered cheeks softly. The baby boy snuggled closer to the warmth, giving a small coo. He looks exactly like Minato. He'll definitely be a ladies' killer when he grows older. Yeah, her moods drop. She clutches her sheets. Minato. Before she lost consciousness, her husband did the seal on his stomach, which confirmed her worst fear. Minato used the Shikifujin, sealing half of the fox within him while the other half in their hours-old baby's stomach. Do these people have no faith in Minato's sealing? He and I are master sealers, and if anything they should be thanking. No, better yet bowing down to Naruto. Kissing his little feet for being the jailer of that damned fox. Minato wouldn't sacrifice any other children knowing what would happen to them. I'm sorry, I shouldn't, don't apologize, Kushina said, wiping away her tears. I knew eventually he was going to do it, but I guess I still haven't come to terms with it. Letting go of your grief is the best medicine I can advise you, Kushina. Tsunade places the baby back in his crib, then goes to sit next to her, wrapping her arms around the younger woman. Just let it out. Kushina buries her face in the crook of her neck, hugging the older woman tightly as she heaves. She hadn't been to the funeral to mourn for her dead lover. It pained her, as well, that now her son was the third host of that damn fox. Tsunade continued to rub her back as a lone tear made its way down her cheek. She knew what it was like to lose. She lost both her brother and her lover here, but she will make the commitment to stay here in the village for the sake of Kushina. The council room doors opened wide and in came Jiraiya, the second Sannin, a tall and well-built man with fair skin. He has a wart on the left side of his nose and waist length. Spiky white hair that he usually ties back into a ponytail, with shoulder-length bangs framing his face. There were red lines under his eyes that extended all the way to the bottom of his cheeks. His attire consisted of a green short shirt, kimono and matching pants, under which he wore mesh armor that is visible at his wrists and ankles. He also wears hand guards, a black belt, traditional Japanese wooden sandals, and a red haori with 2 yellow circles on each side. He carries a large scroll on his back and has a tattoo on his left palm, and he wears a horned forehead protector with the kanji for oil, Abura, which denoted his affiliation with Mount Myoboku. He was not in a good mood ever since he found out that one of his precious former students died using a forbidden jutsu to seal away the fox. In his younger days, his team before they went their separate ways in life consisted of 3 Hyuga, an Uchiha, and finally the 4th himself. Now only 2 of his precious remained. To keep busy, he keeps an ear out in his spy network, hearing news of traitors or general information that might help out his village. However, when word got around that 3rd and 4th Hokage died during the attack of the 9 Tails with a rumored Leviathan, he dropped his peeping, racing back to Konoha. Now the Elder Council wanted a word with him after he made his grand entrance, entering through the gates in the late afternoon. Wonder what the village advisors want from me this time. He saw in the room the 3 elders of Konoha waiting for him. Homura was the first to speak while motioning for him to take a seat. We are glad the time that you're taking out of your busy schedule, Jiraiya, to come to meet with us. He sat crossing his arms, looking indifferent. Well, it is not every day that you hear that your sensei and former student die, is it now? What this rumor I've been hearing about a 100 or so meter Leviathan roaming about? That is a discussion for another day. Danzo said, we are here to discuss you becoming the Godem Hokage after your precious student. As you know, the current state of the village strength dropped drastically. The white-haired man stroked his chin. We don't know when neighboring countries will come at us in a bold move or attempt to wipe us off the face of the map, Kaharu said. Therefore we have decided until the village gets its strength back, we will assemble a few top men from each troop to form an emergency executive committee to oversee the village rebuilding. However, according to the Yondaime dying request, he nominated you to be his replacement. We need a strong, trustworthy leader. Jiraiya held his gaze firmly. We need a 5th Hokage right away, Homura continued. We had an emergency meeting with the feudal lord of the Land of Fire. There were several candidates for the position, however, we settled for you, Kaharu said. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed. While I am flattered by the notion, I'm afraid it's not in my nature to take such a position. Besides, surely the other candidate, if you don't mind asking, who was it? That is not your concern. Danzo said coolly, it has been decided that you take the mantle. Besides, if you are not willing despite your title as a Sannin, then who is? You don't have to make a scary face when talking, you know. The Toad Sage unfolded his arms. I'm pretty sure that if you want a Sannin, then I can think of one who might be able to. The Slug Princess. Danzo's eye widened in anger. That drunken, pathetic woman? She wasn't here to protect the village when it came under attack a few days ago, and she won't protect it now, he said, outraged. You're right, she wasn't, but she's here now, aiding in medical field, helping our forces get back on their feet. So yes, I mean her. Jiraiya narrowed his eyes at the bandage. Besides, I'm sure you were on the list as well. Would it be fair to hand you the title of Hokage without a confirmation that she has denied the opportunity to be the next Hokage? Both Koharu and Komura glanced at each other. We are certain that she would be a capable one, but Tsunade is wise. She is meant to be Hokage as her predecessors before her, even more than I. Need I remind you whose granddaughter she is? No, we understand. Very well, we will consider your proposition. Danzo quickly stood up from his chair and turned his back to the two elders sitting at the desk. His face contorted to one of pure rage, but he wouldn't let his remaining friends see emotion from him. He quietly walked towards the door and opened it. Before exiting the room, he looked backward. Please inform me of Tsunade's decision as soon as possible. The door slams shut. Grouchy old mummy. Uchiha meeting place. Coal eyes returned the stare back at similar coal-black eyes. Sasuke couldn't help but look at his father with mild curiosity. The host that took over the body of the said young boy squealed with glee, not caring a bit in the world that he was acting childish with outstretched hands towards the Uchiha patriarch. 24 years old. Here I am acting like a baby. Oh, wait, I am a baby, he thought. Ah well, I wonder what kind of man is Fugaku. He seems like a stern man, though I never have seen anything else from him. Fugaku could feel a headache coming on, especially with the news that he was going to tell his fellow clansmen. He sighed heavily, rubbing his tired face. Why did his wife make such a drastic decision? Soon voices were heard outside. Fellow clansmen arrived in small groups of 3. Soon the meeting place became packed with at least 20 people. These were the men who were head of the household. Some were discussing what the meeting was going to be about, for their leader sounded very concerned about something and his tone was one of fatigue. Some who knew Fugaku knew that he hasn't slept a wink for the last couple of days. For some, they knew that something had happened to the main family, yet they didn't know what. Once everyone was settled, he cleared his throat, his gruff voice silencing the chatter. All right, let's get this meeting underway. He began. As you know, I've called this meeting together because something has happened that will change the Uchiha forever. Murmurs swam across the room as the Uchiha patriarch continued to speak. As you know, a few days ago our village was attacked by the Nine Tails, and suddenly, as rumors or information that was given to me, a second beast made its way to the village, fighting the fox in the process. Many winced. A lot of lives were lost that day, all thanks to that abomination. The sting of losing some of their members also hurt the clan. Fugaku spoke once again. As you know, the village lost 2 of its Hokage, both the 3rd and 4th. Tensions are high between both the clan and village. So right now I ask that you maintain the peace between comrades. Many nodded. Now let me cut to the chase. For the first time in Uchiha history we have our first ever Jinchuriki. The jaw drop was heard as outroar ensued a moment after the revelation. Right now the Uchihas are now worried or flat outraged. They're not treated with respect since the first Hokage. Ever since the second Hokage took office, they've been the scorn of the village in the Senju-influenced government, for the sole reason that their Sharingan was able to control the Nine Tails. So to add a Jinchuriki amongst the clan was asking the leaders to isolate them even further. Fugaku-sama, is it Itachi? One asked. How can this have happened? No, Uchiha was near the fox the night of the attack, another exclaimed. We are already discriminated by the leaders as well as the village. This will only cause more rift and segregation between us. To answer your questions in order, Itachi is not the jailer. There was an Uchiha near the fox tower days ago, and I know, which is why we are going to keep this a secret. He reached into the basket, picking up his youngest son. He had a small smile when he looked at him, yet as quickly as it came it left. He turned the boy around, allowing his clansmen to see. My youngest son Sasuke is the first Uchiha to be the Jinchuriki. Nance Inganyama Bagithi Baba, Sithi Inganyama, Nance Inganyama Bagithi Baba, Sithi Uhhmm Inganyama, Sayo Nikoba, Inganyama, Nengw, Anamabala. Sasuke squealed in delight, his little arms and legs flailing. This must make me Simba. Does that mean Fugaku is? Gasp. He must be Mufasa. Bow down before my cuteness. The Uchiha gaped at the youngest son of the head family, watching him gurgle and nibble on his own hands, squealing in such an innocent manner that the Uchihas that were there made the decision right there and there. As many of you know or don't know, Jinchurikis are not treated as people but scorn of the earth. My son will be treated as the person who is containing the beast and a hero for doing the ultimate sacrifice for all of us, though he won't be the only one as well. There is another, the son of the 4th Hokage. As much Fugaku despised Minato at times, he was still his best friend, rival, and he him owed more than his life. My son's status of being the jailer will not leave this room, so don't mention it to anyone else, not even your wives. With tension high as it is, we don't need any more burdens than we need. Do I make myself clear? Yes, sir. The following day in her office, Tsunade looks over the medical records while jotting some notes down. She sighs as she takes a plate and chucks to the window behind her. Go away. Ah, come heim, can't an old friend come by and say hi? Jiraiya said as he places the plate down with a smile. You really taken up the mantle of being a true head doctor. Then again, you were always the best when it came to medical nin. Tsunade stops writing for a moment before regarding her fellow Sannin. Whenever you come on your visits, it's usually business you pervert or you turning to paste when I catch you peeping. So what do you want? I'm busy. Jiraiya loses his smile, becoming serious. Tsunade knows whenever her comrade got like this, it meant something big was going on or about to happen, like the time of the Second Shinobi War. I had visited the elders the day before and they were asking me about a particular position which I assume you know is open. Get it, she hissed. Tsunade, the village is requesting, no demanding that you become the Godem Hokage. The tension between the two was thick, you could hear a pin drop. Electricity flowed between the two, both unwilling to budge. So what's your answer? He finally asked. Tsunade turned away back to her paper report. Silence ensued once more, then the scribbling of the pen is heard. I refuse. You said that to me when I tried to ask you out on a date. The white-haired man said with a smirk. You know, being one of the most skilled combatants along with unsurpassed medical skills that you have, you would make a great KAIJU. Let's not forget that you are the granddaughter and grandniece of the first and second Hokage. I'm surprised that you would turn down such a position given your background. Anyone who is willing to take that position only ends up dead. She said, though he couldn't see it. Tsunade had an impassive face on. Minato, my grandfather, and granduncle, even sensei, risked their lives to protect the village. Unlike money, it's too risky to lose it. Is fool doing? She clenches her fist. They all died in vain, and for what? Jiraiya's hard gaze penetrated her. He didn't say anything, just let her do the talking for the most part. He'll say his piece once she was done. To be Hokage is a bother. Only fools would take on the position. Well, I don't know what changed you, Tsunade, Jiraiya said, walking away from her. He sits on an open window looking at the village. But I will say this, if you refuse, you can kiss everything you know and love goodbye to a person who doesn't have the village's best interest at heart. I'm sure Danzo would love to get every child in his root project, but then again, I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing emotionless soldiers running around. Ah well, who else will I turn to? Maybe Fugaku. Ah well, it was a nice chat, Tsunade, but I must inform the elders of your decision. Farewell, for now. With that, he jumped out the window, leaving the blonde Sannin to her thoughts. Tsunade really did try to get back to work, however, the thought of Danzo being Hokage really stirred her the wrong way. Gritting her teeth, she tried to work, but her mind wouldn't allow her to focus at all. Finally, she slammed the pen, rubbing her temples. Damn you, Jiraiya. With a loud voice, she called her apprentice, who happened to be in the other room, Shizune. Chapter 4. News. Hagoromo watched with great interest what the anomaly was doing so far. He smirked as Kei enjoyed his time spending with Mikoto shopping in the market. During the last couple of days, the young man, after the presentation of the new Jinchuriki to the clan, was enjoying himself, mainly giving Itachi, not to forget to mention Fugaku, a massive headache. The sage of the six paths let out a hearty laugh whenever Kei had been fed the foreign food. He turned different colors before spitting it back in the face of his new older brother, laughing at his misery innocently as he could, who tried to feed him. Fugaku was a different story of funny. Whenever he crawls into the head Uchiha quarters, Kei would look at her for the orange book Fugaku keeps hidden in his desk. Then one day he crawled out with a familiar orange book. The Uchiha matriarch was less than thrilled. Let's just say Fugaku was sleeping on the couch while Sasuke slept with his mother. Now Mikoto case was interesting. Never once had the boy given her a hard time. He usually allowed the woman to do as she pleased, never once making a fuss. The said woman was a gentle soul when it came to her children or family, yet behind that calm, gentle demeanor was a hardened kunoichi known as the slender silent raven to many who have fought her before she proficient with a katana. The old man stroked his goatee. He's a troublemaker when it comes to the male family, yet calm whenever around the Uchiha matriarch. I suppose his playful side only comes out to annoy whenever he wants to. Heh heh. I swear Fugaku will have his hands full when Sasuke grows older. He's not the only one who's going to have his hands full. Hagoromo turned regarding the female entity. When he glanced at her, she was visibly shaking in fear. What happened? Kami is most displeased by the turn of events. I warned Kei that he was messing with forces that he didn't understand how the ninja world will inherit the curse of the kaiju attacking them. Fate saw within a vision that the land will be plagued by various monsters, each deadlier than the last, but there will be one, the deadliest of them all, to put the king of kaiju to the test. As he grows older, he will face various challenges. There will be 15 kaijus. 10 will be his enemy while the other 5 will be his allies. What else did he say? A prophecy. When the moment comes that the sun doesn't shine, a season shall mark the deaths of millions, the destruction of nature, and bring about a cursed age. It shall be then, when air turns to fire, 2 friends shall cause the overthrowing of royalty and bring a reunion of enemies. The world will become desolate, but within the chaos, they will stand to unite to fight back the coming of evil. She said solemnly, "You and I cannot intervene unless absolutely necessary to do so. I have foreseen that Kami will test him to see if he is worthy for this opportunity that we have given him." I see. This means that we cannot warn him of the coming danger that will occur even with this knowledge of the 4th Shinobi War. Is it possible that he knows of these other kaiju? Her eyes close. Fate sighs, rubbing one of her arms. At this point, I worry not about that, it's how he goes about it that worries me the most. Have you not noticed his demeanor? In the time that I've known you, you never doubted anything until now. Why? Have a little faith in Kei, or should I say Sasuke. His journey has only begun. After all, I doubt Kami is that heartless to test him this early on. The wise sage said, whatever happens, he will not be alone in this fight. I only hope that he will be ready when the trails come. Journal entry number 50, date January 12, 2017. It has been 3 years since the disappearance of Gojira. The strange phenomenon of his disappearance is still a mystery to me. There was no carcass, no sign of a struggle, nothing against the ancient reptile. It is as if he vanished off the face of the earth. I fear that without him bringing balance, many just as him will try to be the dominant alpha predator, yet not to bring balance but to destroy. Within the 3 years my colleagues have been searching for more of these ancient behemoths. I have this sense of forbid dance that something else is coming. Something much, much deadlier than that of Mutos. We have found traces of where he lies, his head in the bottom of the ocean, where we knew that he be to gather strength to absorb the radiation that he feeds on. I only hope that this sudden disappearance will be temporary. The book closes as a hand lays down the pencil, signaling that the person finishes writing a log. He is a distinguished-looking man in his early 40s, with receding black hair and a neatly trimmed mustache and beard, an austere Japanese man with a pensive, almost brusque demeanor. He carries a small brass pocket watch, fiddling with it absently as he studies the horizon. Serizawa enjoyed the view of snow until he spied his destination. He wears a parka due to the cold weather that happens in the north. A Monarch helicopter is making its way across the snowy tundra. In the distance looms a sprawling subarctic lab with people going to and fro from the main facility. The helicopter lands and he is greeted along with his assistants by one of the officials, Dr. Serizawa. It's good to see you again. The snow blowing makes it hard to greet each other, yet they shake hands despite this. Serizawa nods his head. What news do you have? It's best if we head inside to warm up. I'll explain in further detail. The trio of scientists sit in the conference room. After making themselves a nice hot cup of coffee, they conversed on the discovery made by Monarch's top intellectual people. Over the phone, a few weeks before his arrival, they mentioned that giant monster named Monster X was found frozen in a huge block of ice. We are talking huge, I mean huge discovery. This thing has got to be bigger than your giant reptile lizard. But what's strange about this creature is that despite having 2 legs, this one has 3 heads on long necks, while the position is in different direction as if it was trying to escape. Did I forget to mention giant bat-like wings, and 2 tails? What kind of creature is it then? We don't know. He regarded his assistant, Vivian Graham, who happened to be Ishiro's assistant. We can conclude that it's been in that ice for probably millions of years. The cave painting we found on that island indicates that a battle took place between Godzilla, a moth-like creature with an oversized turkey, and Monster X, resulting in to lead this thing here. However, the question remains as to why? What was the purpose of the fight? Beats me. All I know is he is not the only one to be discovered. Vivian was taken aback. What do you mean? It's crazy. It's like they want to be found. The man said. He took a sip of his coffee. We already found 5 more of these things in different parts of the world, some in the deep oceans, Other in secluded islands or places that the natives worship like a god. Do we have any idea if they were collecting data on them? Do have any data at all? We got data all right, although it is very tough to get more data. These things can pop out of nowhere, or they hide from us, or they kill some of us. The man solemnly, by the way, how the search for the G-Man? Any luck? Ichiro shook his head sideways. He tightens his hands on the mug. Unfortunately, my team and I have no clue to where Godzilla could be. We searched for the past 3 years, nevertheless we have not found a single trace of him anywhere. It has been disturbing, to say the least. How so? I mean, don't get me wrong, I just don't know how a missing lizard is a bad thing, considering that it could eventually turn on us. The arrogance of man is thinking that nature is in our control, but not the other way around. Godzilla is a force of nature. He is the one to bring balance to the world whenever it is thrown off. Without him, mankind will be thrown into a world of chaos. We must learn to live in harmony with those who seek to protect us, even though he wants nothing to do with us. There is a silence for a moment. Show me where they are keeping Monster X. The man nods. Moments later, as they walked through a tunnel of the underground facility, filled with lanterns to keep the hallway lit, Vivian regarded her teacher. Sensei, are you all right? For the last 3 years, I've been worried because you've been obsessed with Godzilla disappearances. Don't worry about me, Vivian. While I do appreciate the concern, it's the mystery that intrigues me. As a scientist, it's my duty to solve the mystery of the universe, from the simplest of organisms to the most complex atom. We're here. The door opened to reveal a much larger room with dozens of people chatting. Tools running is heard as well. The one thing that caught the attention of Ichiro was the giant block of ice with a silhouette of a serpent. They reached the middle of a bridge several yards away from the giant block of ice. I would like to introduce you, Monster X. Both scientists looked in awe at the massive creature in its containment. Best we meet with the others, they have more info on this giant. Konoha Hokage Tower. 2 years later, news about the new Hokage spread as wildfire. After a grueling 2 years, finally Tsunade was ready to take the mantle of the Godem Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. Not to forget to mention the grueling amount of practice with paperwork that the elders wanted her to get used to. She swore that she would get Jiraiya back for this manipulation. However, he was right about one thing: Danzo becoming Hokage would have been disastrous. When she was much younger, she met the old Warhawk one day, immediately taken a disliking towards him. There's something about him that she didn't like. Neither did she like this rude Anbu problem. How was it that her former sensei could allow such a thing to exist? Well, then again, she understood to a certain extent why it was needed, still it had to go. Meanwhile, she looked out the window. Celebration filled the streets of the village as villagers began to crowd around the Hokage's mansion. Many were buying decorations, food, and other items to commemorate the day while they waited for the inauguration of the new Godem. Oh yeah, today was the day that she would actually be inaugurated as the new leader of this blasted village. She lets out a sigh, already feeling a headache coming on. Where's the sake when you need it? Tap 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 tap. Come in. The door blasted opened. A red blur quickly found its way towards the blonde. Without warning, Tsunade was pulled out of her chair into a crushing bear hug while being spun around till she had swirls in her eyes. I can't believe it, I can't believe it, I can't believe it, and I can't believe it. It's your big day, Tsunade. Kushina yelled with glee. My cousin, the 5th Hokage. I know you will do wonders for this village. TT Ebane. Kushina can't breathe. The blonde managed to let out. The room was still spinning. Her face was turning a bit purple from the lack of oxygen. Oh. She let her go. Tsunade places a hand on her heart, taking deep breaths with her other hand on the desk for support. Killing me before the hat has even dropped on me. I'll have you know that Anbu wouldn't mind interrogating you for the death of the newly appointed Hokage. Ah, stop being so dramatic. Kushina playfully slapped her arm. The robes suit you. You look like a true KAIJU. I'll say. Both women saw Jiraiya sitting on the window with a playful smirk. Looking good, Tsunade. Why can't you use the door like normal people? She deadpanned. Too boring. Besides, I like to make an entrance. Now all we have to do is get her a little more personality. Lest we have to live under the reign of the most boring Hokage in the history of ever. Kushina added, stroking her chin. That's right. Wait a minute. What? Tsunade grabbed her cousin by the scruff of her neck with a tick mark appearing on her forehead along with the fire in her eyes. What was that, Kushina? The redhead let out a laugh while the Jiraiya gazed with amusement on his feature. Naruto. Get back here. The 3 elder shinobi faced the door to see a 2-year-old blonde boy running and laughing entering the room, running towards his mother. Ka-san, save me. From the monster. He giggled when Shizune entered the room. She was mad. No, beyond that, she was furious. However, when the 6 pairs of eyes looked upon her, they had to hold in their laughter. Right before them stood the young apprentice of the legendary medic with painted hair of different colors, blue, green, purple, with her skin dyed a navy blue and her clothing a kimono. Oink! A pig trotted in quickly, sitting next to the feet of the young girl. Tsunade bit her tongue from the smile that took her face. She could feel a chuckle rising into full-blown guffaws. What happened to you? That, she pointed at the young boy hiding behind Kushina, is what happened to me. Naruto stuck his tongue out as his mother picked up her baby boy. Now Naruto, why would you do that? Shizune, nay, give me no cookie, Naruto said with a pout on his face. Nichan bad. Steam blowing out her ears, she had enough of his antics for today. Come here, you little twerp, I'll show you who's bad. Tsunade quickly got in between the two, holding back a laugh and her apprentice by the scruff of her neck while her arms tried to reach the boy. Now Shizune, calm down. Why don't you go home, take the rest of the day off? I'm sure you need a few days before you can actively get back to work. She huffed, crossing her arms. She glared at the boy. Next time, Naruto, I'm not taking you to the park. This shocked the boy to his core. BBU. BU. The raven-haired girl grew briefly confused at the sudden twitching expression coming upon the toddler's face before dreading what was coming next. Shizune froze. Oh no. Quickly she begged, don't cry. No, Naruto, please. Too late. Wahahaha. The pitch of the shriek alone was enough to send shivers down her spine. Mumi. The toddler cried, streams of tears rolling down his eyes and nose. Kushina sighed sheepishly. If it was one thing that you don't tell a child, especially at his age, is not to take them to the park. Her little boy was very fond of the place with exciting new friends to play with. If only these village idiots would stop glaring whenever they think she wasn't looking. Shish, Naruto honey. SHH. Calm. Look at Ka-san. The boy stopped his crying. Kushina wiped away the tears from his eyes. What you did was not nice. Now what do you say to Shizune? I'm sorry, he sniffed. The said girl sighed. She hated when he used his cuteness on her. It's okay, Naruto, but please eat your vegetables like a good boy. They yucky. Tsunade, they're waiting for you. All members turned their head. Danzo entered the room. The cane clanging against the floor with every step he took. He stopped, his brow raised, looking at Shizune, who had a glare that said, don't ask. The 4 of you may want to head on outside now. I want to speak with you alone, Tsunade, for a moment, he said. They looked between the two. Tsunade waved them off. Once they were out of the room, she closed the door before regarding the elder. What do you want? Outside on ground level of the Hokage mansion, young Sasuke looked around while staying close to his mother's side. Now Sasuke wasn't much for parties even in his previous life, but when it came to food, when did he reject it? Unfortunately, though he wasn't old enough to stay home to miss the inauguration of the new leader. So Tsunade is the new, or should I say going to be, Godem Hokage of the Hidden Leaf. That's good in some ways. Now Naruto won't have to go with Jiraiya to search for her. However, the question now remains, what will she do about the Uchihas? The anomaly pondered. I'm going to have to think of something, because going up to the Hokage to say, a massacre will take if you don't do anything, will be asking for a probe. For the last 2 years, Sasuke had grown into a fine little toddler, a calm yet mischievous toddler with his hair sticking from the back like a ducktail. Moreover, the family noticed the signs of the effect of his Jinchuriki status. His neck had these lines, 3 on each side, faint, but it was there if someone knew what they were looking. However, people would assume that they were tattoos. Another thing they found abnormal was his unusual body heat. Oh, how Makoto and Izumi loved this boy during the winter seasons. Even Fugaku was complaining that his own son outdid him when it came to spending time with his wife. He could have sworn that Sasuke had a smug smile enjoying his quality time with his mother, something he says, lucky brat. Izumi, whenever she came to visit, he would run up to her enjoying her affection, something that didn't go unnoticed by his older brother, who was a bit peeved with jealousy even though he didn't show it. Sasuke was a bit annoyed when Itachi denied Izumi a chance to carry him, so he decided to throw a tantrum to his older brother, much to his shock and puzzlement, though very much to Izumi's delight when they first met. After that, Itachi tried to take care of the little stinker to figure out what was wrong. Needless to say, Sasuke was going to show Itachi hard brotherly love his way. However, it was the brunette was the one to notice this about one winter afternoon, that Sasuke was abnormally warm. This worried the family, though. It was nothing after they found out from the doctor said that his temperature was a normal 98.6. Still, he was a great warmer for her, especially when he could walk a year later. Mama, Makoto looked down at her son. Why does the Hokage take a long time? Well, Sasuke, on an important day such as this, it's crucial for them who are going to be inaugurated as the leader to take time to prepare for the grand ceremony. Makoto's eyes roamed the scene. It's their duty to protect the village. It's a hard job as well, very demanding with all the paperwork and meetings. One must be ready to face challenges. Does twat include Uchihas too? In the back of his mind, yeah. Let's see how you will respond to that, Makoto. To say the young woman was surprised was an understatement. Curiously, she gazed at her 2-year-old son right in the eye. His eyes told of one of innocence, yet where did that question come from? She had to ask that question to process it in her mind correctly in order to respond. The better question yet. Was Sasuke much more sensitive to his surroundings? That was preposterous. Then again, look no further than her older son Itachi, another gentle one and a prodigy at his age. Yes, Sasuke, even the Uchihas, she said with a smile on her face. Sasuke smiled back, then turned his attention elsewhere. He saw a familiar spiky blonde-haired boy walking with a familiar redhead woman. He internally smirked evilly. Why not have some fun with Kushina? Is that Shizune? The anomaly waited for just the right time until, look, Ka-san, Tomato-chan. Makoto slapped her mouth shut from the laughter that was threatening to erupt from her. She knew her Uzumaki friend hated when people refer her to that, yet apparently Kushina heard it, for her eyebrow was twitching violently as she closed in with a sweetly sick smile. Makoto, hi, hello, heh, Kushina, hey, Tomato-chan, you have pretty hair. Sasuke was pushing his luck. He knew it, but it was great to be a kid. Kushina was clenching and unclenching her fist while trying to keep that smile going. Hi, Sasuke-kun. Thank you for the complaint. You welcome, Berry-chan. At this point Kushina gave up. A dark cloud passes over the now crouching mother as a spotlight hits her. I hate my hair, it haunts me to this day. Naruto, Shizune, Sasuke, and Makoto sweat dropped at her antics. Wow, this is depressing even for me. Sasuke looks to his left. Naruto looks to his right. The Uchiha boy speaks as he points to him. You going to be my FWIEND? Wheelie? You my F-wind? Wup, we best F-weens now. Naruto's eyes sparkled with glee. He hugged the raven boy tightly, spinning him as he jumped for joy. Yeah. Nei-chan. Ka-san, I have a F-wind. A best FWIEND. That's great, Naruto. Friends are always part of our lives, and soon you two will have an unbreakable bond one day. Shizune kneeled down, smiling at the two. Wheelie, really, why you look like a clown? Shizune was now in the emo corner. Why did you do this to me, Naruto? Why? Sheesh. What's up with her? Well, I thought I'd find you here. Makoto looked back to her husband approaching with Itachi. Looks like everyone is all here. Sasuke rushed to his older brother, pulling him to meet Naruto. Ni-san. Ni-san, I made a FWIEND. I'm coming. Sasuke, relax. Where were you? Establishing a meeting with some of the clan's members after this event. Makoto was about to say something until someone pointed out a lone figure on top of the mansion. The doors opened, everyone stopped to look up. The sound of Jiraiya's voice boomed. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you your new leader of the Hidden Leaf Village, the descendant of the Shodem Hokage Senju Tsunade. The crowd roared with cheers and praises as the one clothed in white stepped forward as the man with the white hair stepped back. Now the newly appointed leader, with a swipe of the hat, is revealed to be the blonde. She has a light smile on, looking down at the people. From this day forward I will protect the village as the Godem Hokage. The crowd cheered mightily, though not everyone is excited to hear the news. Fugaku crosses his arms, looking at the woman dressed in the robes of the Hokage. What will this mean for the Uchiha now that Slug Princess is in control? Will she be like her grandfather Senju Hashirama, or will she be like her great-granduncle Senju Tobirama? While he didn't notice it, Sasuke looks back at his father for a brief moment. Tsunade is officially Hokage now. The only question is what happens to the Uchiha clan now. I know that everyone else goes on to be great, it's the clan I have to worry about now, but with people like Danzo working behind the shadows I can't help but feel something bad is going to happen. A helicopter passes by to a rocky location where the last Monarch team back in 1973 planned an expedition to map out a recently discovered island known as Skull Island. A group of researchers was called to follow a lead of a flying dinosaur roaming about and settling on Monster Island. Further, that there was an egg spotted near the site they were inspecting. We were up here with the Russians, doing a geological for the natural petroleum. Yeah, and we came across something strange. They continued to climb the steep mountain. We're nearly there. They come across a skeleton of a pteranodon engraved in the wall of the mountain. While I don't mind sending something like this to the Museum of History, in the report there was an egg? Where is it? They reached over a trench and lo, there was the egg, a broken one and one that was intact as if it was never been touched before. They drew close to it and one of the scientists, being British native, touched it. Unbelievable. I can't believe it's completely intact. Another scientist, being female Chinese, noticed a glow from the bottom. Professor McCabe, look, it's glowing. The others gathered around looking at it. We have to get this back to the lab stat. Then suddenly a screech that sounded like a dying bird screeched throughout the area. What the heck was that? Chapter 5. First order of business. They reached over a trench and lo, there was the egg, a broken one and one that was intact as if it was never been touched before. They drew close to it and one of the scientists, being British native, touched it. Unbelievable. I can't believe it's completely intact. Another scientist, being female Chinese, noticed a glow from the bottom. Professor McCabe, look, it's glowing. The others gathered around looking at it. We have to get this back to the lab stat. Then suddenly a screech that sounded like a dying bird screeched throughout the area. What the heck was that? Squawk, up there, one of them said. Upon a rock in the distance, the creature resembles a large pterosaur that walks upright on two legs. Its wings were huge, spanning about 150 meters and its heights about 100 meters. The ancient dinosaur beady eyes gazed at the researchers intruding on its territory. What were these strange creatures doing here? Gazing its vision, it saw that they were touching the egg. How dare these creatures touch his belonging? Now it was furious again. It let a mighty roar before flapping its wings, soaring through the air, allowing his wings to do damage. With the creature soaring above their heads, the scientists knew that they had to leave with or without the egg, yet one of them pushed it as they got behind it, budging only slightly. Quick! Help me push it into the helicopter before that thing decides to have us for lunch. Professor Arnsberg. It's not worth it, come on. We will not let this preservation go to ruin. The gust of the wind proved too much for them as they began to tumble on the ground. Some of them ran away to where the copter was for safety. Yet that stubborn professor from England refused to leave that egg alone. Mickey, let's get this egg rolling, help with me. The young Asian scientist was torn. She wanted to get to safety away from the attack of the flying pteranodon. However, a major discovery was right within the grasp, so making haste she made her decision, struggling against the wind gust of the flying reptile. She made it by crawling on the dirt, being helped by Arnsberg when she grabbed his hand. Atta girl! Slap! The stunned professor touched his cheek, speechless to why she would do that. You stupid, arrogant man. Can't you see that your life is in danger and you refuse to let this go? I can't believe I made this decision. The Englishman was still stunned. What are you waiting for? You want to get eaten? Then be my guest now, push. With great effort, the two begun to roll the egg up the hill. The wind that the pteranodon was doing wasn't helping at all. They'll never make it. Then let's go. Two more scientists risked themselves, helping the professor move a bit faster to get to the chopper. RRRRR. The flying reptile settled upon another high rock, gazing in the distance to where the sound was coming, so he decided to come out. Ah heck, not another one. The thundering steps came to halt, as did the egg. The scientist turned to witness an amazing 131 meters tall gorilla with orange-brown fur, a small crown, a huge brow, an exaggerated muzzle that looked like it can swallow a whale. It had an upright stature, carrying itself proudly as if to say it was chief here. It had a rounded head and several scars, and it pounded its chest to issue a challenge after an earth-shaking roar. The pteranodon screeched back, accepting the challenge. It flew at the giant gorilla, sending debris towards it. The other titan responded by jumping out of the way, grabbing a giant boulder, hurling it at the flying reptile. The giant ape pounded its chest, signaling that it will fight. Come on. We got to get this thing out of here. Is that a giant, a monkey? 3 out of the 4 paused. Their heads turned almost robotically, each giving the fourth man a look that said, "Are you serious? What's your name, son?" "Dillian. How long were you working for the company?" 2 years. Why? Did you ever read the report about the expedition that happened back in the summer of 1973? No. Was I supposed to know? The English professor palmed his face. That giant monkey is Kong. How did you not know that? It's been in the report in the archives. Dillion shrugged while the English professor contemplating whether to hit him or not. He then chooses to get the egg out of harm's way. I'll deal with you later. A week had passed since the ceremony. Tsunade was less than thrilled to go into a meeting so soon with the elders. However, they did say it was utmost important to have this discussion concerning the safety of the village. She walked up the stairs into a secluded part of Hokage Tower where they could hold private meetings. Once she reached her destination, she took a look at the folder. In there was the game plan of what to discuss the incident of what happened 2 years ago with the nine-tailed fox and the rumored Leviathan, though she didn't believe the later until she saw the footprints of said creature. She even interviewed the ninjas as well as a few civilians that were there the night they saw this great beast. It intrigued her to no end. Still, with no official record or at least documentation stating the existence of this thing to her, it was all speculation or rumors, not saying she didn't believe the evidence was there. Any creature could have done something like or summon. Closing the file, she opened the door to the room. The 3 elders welcomed her as they were already gathered around the table with their own documentation. Greetings, Lady Hokage, Kaharu said, please take a seat. Let's get this over with. I got enough stuff to do with paperwork as is it already. For once we are in agreement, Danzo said. That's a shocker, Tsunade replied, taking her seat. Ignoring the light jab, the mummified ninja picked his paper, skimming through it with his lone eye. We have unfinished business to take care from 2 years ago. I want to get that first if you don't mind, Lady Hokage. Not at all. I too want to know the details surrounding this mysterious attack of the fox as well Leviathan. The attack is still fresh in our minds. We still don't have many answers. There are still too many questions surrounding the incident. We do know that the fox has been sealed into Kushina Boy Uzumaki Naruto. The other 3 nodded. Yes, Minato sacrificed his own child to bear the burden that no one else would. The Hidden Leaf Village houses the strongest of the Biju, while the rest of the nations have the lesser-tailed beast. Yet the only other village that could rival us in power is Kumogakure no Sato, with them housing both Nibi and Hachibi. It's a wonder why they haven't attacked us yet. Danzo stated, with the proper training we could easily. Absolutely not, the blonde shrieked. You are not going to militarize that boy by stripping him of all emotion. I would rather face down that fox myself rather than you do something to my cousin. He's just a boy, let him live his life. I am only looking out for the safety of this village. I will do anything necessary to protect her borders. What I do is none of your concern, brat. That's Lady Hokage too, you old man. She countered with venom in her voice as she grabbed the folder tightly before slamming it down on the table, cracking it. To correct you, Danzo, everything that goes on this village, including affairs that happen, are my now concern, including the safety of her citizens. Kaharu and Homura held their breaths. This escalated quickly. Last I checked, the Hokage always has the final say in the matter. The counselors are there to give their opinions and advice, thus making sure the decisions made are fair and take into account all possibilities and viewpoints. I don't care if Sensei let you slide on more than one occasion, this stops with me. You respect everything I say and speak when you have something insightful. Do I make myself clear? Danzo didn't even flinch. Yes. Yes. What? Yes, Lady Hokage. Watch your tone. The other 2 elders swallowed dryly. They have to remember this is not Hiruzen or Minato they were dealing with, even though Minato was very tough on them. This is Tsunade they were dealing with, a person who is still new to the position. Please let's not continue to fight amongst ourselves. Danzo only has the village best interest at heart. You are still very new to this position, Tsunade. I suggest you listen to us before throwing your tantrums. The blonde scoffed. I suggest you stop treating me like a child who doesn't know how I'm going to run this village. I know enough about the position of Hokage, but I do agree, let's continue. One last glare to the mummy. She swiped the papers, skimming through the document. According to the report, Anbu and the wife of my former sensei killed. Any idea how? Homura shakes his head. We are just as clueless as you. We do know that someone is behind this. Someone from the Uchiha is behind this, the old warhawk stated. A slap on the face is heard. The 3 questioningly look at Tsunade, who slouched in her seat. Listen, I'm not here to play games, so you better have a good reason. I mean a damn good reason why we are accusing one of the founding clans to treason to unleash that monstrosity on the village. It's quite simple, Kaharu replied. The Uchiha can control the 9 tails with their visual prowess. Every clan that faced the fox claimed to seen a Sharingan in its eye. They would do it for political reasons. They have lost many seats of position from the council. It was a retaliation against us for doing so. The old warhawk said, we must keep an eye on them on a 24/7 watch. Tsunade readjusted herself in her seat, taking a now serious look. She contemplated the situation. While the Uchiha are unique with their Kekkei Genkei in copying jutsus, the only Uchiha who has ever succeeded in controlling the fox was none other than Madara Uchiha, whom my grandfather fought despite being friends as far as my knowledge is concerned. She paused, looking at them sternly. It's been a long time since I've seen an Uchiha gaining the second stage of their Sharingan, so I repeat my question again. Why are condemning our own clansmen just because of speculation if there is no proof of claim? That doesn't mean there is bound to trouble. We don't even know if they are responsible. Precisely why we must watch over them. If we do, it must be in secret, allowing Anbu to do the job to report back to us. Both the elders nodded in agreement. You'll only escalate the situation further. Do not think for a moment that I haven't seen the way the police force are being treated. It doesn't take a blind man to see that tension between the villagers as well Uchiha clan is on a rise. You are asking for trouble. Tsunade-sama, you are not seeing the bigger picture here. Enlightening me. Pray to tell me what I'm not seeing. Senju Park is a large forest area that is associated with the Senju clan, containing a giant tree, which is surrounded by a pond and a playground, where the sound of the children are laughing and playing. Ah, the wind in my face, the wind in hair, the wind in my mouth. Yuck. Bugs in my teeth, patooey. The saliva managed to take out a lot of the bugs, That was disgusting. I really don't understand how Phil and Lil eat bugs for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Then again, it was a cartoon about babies on wild adventures when the grown-ups weren't looking. Boy, do I miss my childhood in the late 90s, early 2000s. Why can't we go back to the 90s? All the best shows were in the 90s, but no. We had to grow up someday. It's not like we can stay a kid forever. The sound of certain blonde laughing didn't go unnoticed by the host of Sasuke. HMPH. Wah-it wise guy. I threw mud at you. With his fist cracking Sasuke, he attacked Naruto. The two started to roll around on the ground screaming and hollering. Makoto and Kushina chuckled sheepishly at the boys' antics of playing with each other, roughly, though it ended up with the two separated with Sasuke giving a pout. You Adobe, Naruto pouted as he marched to the older toddler. I know Dobi, you Adobe. Sasuke turns around, having this look on his face that screamed out Naruto was ready to do something if he could figure out what that something is. The raven-haired boy bop in the nose, causing the blonde to look at his friend confused. You white, you know Dobi. Naruto foxy smile came on. You a baka, the boy said with glee. The smile was still there as Sasuke started to count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, oi. Bingo. Took him long enough to finally, mommy. Of course. He deadpanned. Makoto got up, reassuring her friends she had this covered. She sighs as walks over to the two. With a neutral face on, she kneels down in front of the boys. What's going on, boys? Sasuke called me baka. Sasuke? He shrugged. He looks like a cow. Makoto blinked. Where did her son get a cow from, baka? Her neutral face turned serious. Sasuke, where did you hear that word? You would not hear that anywhere in the house. Well, let me put it simple, Makoto. Your son has been invaded by what we call an anomaly, which is currently talking to you. Not to mention, in my country the term baka or vakadu sound alike, so if you were in a Spanish-speaking country from where I come from, you would know the terminology of that translates to cow, but in the culture of the Japanese it means idiot. Thank you, thank you. The young mother continued to stare at the boy. It obvious that he was thinking yet of what. His eyes told her that he was not paying attention to her as of now, something that she would have to punish him if he doesn't respond within the next 5 seconds. Sasuke. The boy snapped out of his thoughts. I'm giving until the count of 3 to tell me where you learned that word. 1. People. Makoto understood now. Honey, you can't be calling your friends that, it's very offensive to many. Now apologies to Naruto. I'll deal with you when we get home. You are not my real mom, Makoto, but I'll humor you because I was taught to obey authority. He scratched his head, looking at the blonde straight in the eye. Sorway. It's okay. Play tag. Yeah. Both boys raced away from the Uchiha matriarch as she shook her head in amusement as she went to sit with her friend. So what was that about? Apparently, Sasuke has a new vocabulary word added to his list, calling Naruto a baka, but get this, he says he looks like a cow. The redhead scratched her head. Where does he get a cow from, baka? The matriarch shrugged. I have no idea. Mei Terumi is a slender young woman in her early adult years, around the age of 22. She has green eyes, and shoulder length. Auburn hair styled into a herringbone pattern at the back, a top knot tied with a dark blue band, and with 4 bangs at the front. 2 bangs are short, with one partially covering her right eye, and 2 other bangs that are long, nearly touching each other on her bust, just below her chin. She wears a long-sleeved, dark blue dress that falls just below the knees. It seems to be closed at the front with a zip and is kept open on the front right side from the waist down. The dress only covers up to the upper part of her arms and the underside of her breasts. Underneath, she wears mesh armor that covers more of her upper body than her dress but stops short of covering her shoulders, revealing a small amount of her cleavage exposed. She also wears shorts in the same color as her dress, and underneath those, mesh leggings reaching down over her knees. Around her waist, she wears a belt with a pouch attached to the back on the left, along with high-heeled sandals and shin guards reaching up over her knees, dark blue polish on her fingers and toes, and is usually wearing dark blue lipstick on her lips. A bodyguard at her side accompany her, an aged man with blue hair, which is styled in a moosed-up manner. His left eye was blue and his right eye was covered with an eye patch. He wore a talisman in each ear with the kanji for a humble form of to hear, shaying, show written on them twice on each side. He also wore the standard striped, gray suit, with a green haori that had white trimmings that stop halfway down, over them. They have traveled far from the land of Hidden in the Mist. She let sighed again for the 20th time, thinking about how she was lucky managing to escape her home village due to the current situation with the 4th Mizukage. Yagura. The man had changed completely. All of a sudden the once calm, collective young man now started to have barbaric rituals where academy students would be forced to kill each other in order to graduate. She shuddered at the thought. What happened to you, Yagura? Witnessing that tension was an all-time high. She could only dread that civil war was on the horizon. If it wasn't for a good number of supporters, she would have been killed or executed. She was staying in different parts of the villages as a tourist, hoping to take her mind off. News got to her that a new Hokage was appointed to the Hidden Leaf Village, one of the legendary Sanin Tsunade's Senju. Seeking the opportunity to raise support in case of an unavoidable civil war, she could ask for help to overthrow the current Mizukage, yet that was a big if. It was no secret that Konoha had been attacked by one of the Biju, mainly the strongest of them all, the nine-tailed fox. 2 years. She wasn't too sure what the current Hokage was going to tell her, but she had to try for the sake of her fellow shinobi in the mist. A hand is on her shoulders. The young beauty turns to her bodyguard. We're here. Right in front of them were the gates of Konoha, standing tall, proud, and secure. She let out a huff. This was it. This was it. Do or die. Hours later, the slender young woman explained everything that was going to the new appointed Hokage. She listened carefully for every detail, not wanting to miss the information, or if the info were false she would deny her request for aid. However, one thing was certain: war was coming. This was the reason why I came, seeking Konoha's help. I fear that this will be endless bloodshed if the right support is not given. Tsunade folded her hands on her desk. I understand that you wish for aid, but I cannot spare anyone at the moment. As you can see, my village is still recovering from the attacks from the Nine Tails 2 years ago. Giving you some of my forces would cut production by half. Need I say that Konoha is not in good standings with 2 of the other hidden villages, namely Kumogakure and Iwagakure? You can already imagine what would become of us. Mei's eye twitched a little. She crossed her arms. Look, I understand that somehow Konoha is responsible for major victories for the last 2 wars. Not mention that abnormality you have in raising prodigies generation after generation, especially with the latest one of the late Yellow Flash. She had a small sparkle in her eyes, something that the Senju noticed with a frown. Well, I think talks, for now, shall be continued tomorrow. For now, I will retire to my hotel for the evening. Farewell until the next day, Lady Hokage. With that, the redhead bowed, leaving the blonde to her thoughts. As much she wanted to help, the situation in Kiri reconstruction along with re-establishment were a priority here in the village. Maybe, just maybe, she could send diplomats to see how the condition is. Yet, would that be a wise choice? Sighing deeply, she reached in her drawer for her sake. She really hated this job. Too many complicated decisions. The Uchiha compound was filled with activity, people conversing with each other, children running around laughing, running, and most importantly alive. Sasuke gazed curiously at the scenery before him. It was like a village within the village. The anomaly understood why Sasuke changed the way he did after the fall. If that ever happened to me, I probably would have done the same thing, he thought, so what will be the first act one got to do before Sasuke turns lucky number 7 feet? When he got home after dinner and a little playtime with Itachi, Sasuke was in his room sitting on his bed with the covers resting on his lap. His hearing was sharp, making sure that no one would hear his self-conversation, so throwing off the covers he was in the middle of the room. It was night by the time bedtime was around. Okay. Let's see the differences between our bodies. Getting instance, he started breathing in and out before quickly following his stanzas. Okay. How about a little Goju Ryu? Gangru Lu. I'll start with the first kata taught to me, Gekasai Daiichi. His left foot steps out into yoi position, shoulder width apart. The left hand pushes down while the right hand push up, creating tension. From there the right foot steps forward and he turned left 90 degrees into hourglass stance. He high blocks with left hand. Stepping forward into hourglass stance with the right foot, he delivers a high punch with the right hand. Stepping back into square stance so that the body is facing the direction of the attention stance, a low block with the left. He turned 90 degrees and his left foot slides behind the right into hourglass stance, another high block with the right hand. Once again he steps forward into hourglass stance with the left leg, striking a high punch with the left hand. Then stepped back into square stance so that the body is facing the direction of the attention stance. He now does a low block with the right. Suddenly the left leg steps in and then forward into hourglass stance with a middle block with the left. Stepping forward into hourglass stance with the right, again a middle block with the right. A left front kick and he lands in a front stance with a left elbow strike as his blocking right hand pulls back into the chamber with a left downward back fist face level. With this transitions to the low block and the right hand punches with a soft ki. He turned right 90 degrees into a ready stance with his head facing to right, following up with a right knife hand strike to the side of the temple. During this transition the back leg of the previous front stance lifts up as if avoiding a sweep. Then once again he turned right 90 degrees to step forward with the left into hourglass stance, allowing a left hand middle block to turn into a right front kick and land in a front stance with the right elbow strike as blocking left hand pulls back into chamber with a right downward back fist face level. Then again right hand transitions to low block with the left hand punches with another soft ki. Another 90 degrees into a ready stance with the head facing to left. Then he proceeds a left knife hand strike to the side of the temple, allowing the back leg of the previous front stance lifts up as if avoiding a sweep, turning left again in 90 degrees and left leg steps back into front stance. As he is stepping back the left hand pulls back as if pulling the arm of an opponent, then the left hand in chamber, palm down, right in chamber, palm up. A double punch with the left hand to the lungs and right to the stomach. When he was stepping back the left hand turns in an open-handed fanning block with the right hand in chamber coming out and performs a middle block. Then both hands pull back to the chamber with left palm down and right palm up, then double punch. He steps forward into ready stance, reverse fist orientation, then another step forward, feet together. Both knees bent, the right arm turns in as if for a fanning block with the left arm arcs around in front for a middle block. Then both hands are pulled back into the chamber in the reverse orientation they were before in the prior step with a step back with the right leg into front stance. A final double punch, right hand to the heart and left to the liver. Finally, the last step forward into attention stance, he opened the left hand, turns the right fist to palm facing up and place it in the open hand. Step forward to attention stance as the hands turn to stay left over right and return to the beginning position. He bowed, panting slightly. That was a lot more effort than I thought I give. He looked at his little hands clenching, unclenching. This body is built for speed and seems to adjust easily to any situation, but I can sense my chakra control is a bit off. No, way off. It seems my status of being Jinchuriki gave me more chakra than I would like. Need more training. But who? Climbing back into bed, Sasuke laid his hands on his head, debating who would train him. Asking Itachi was out of the question. The boy was too observant. Mikoto? Maybe. Fugaku? On second thought, maybe asking his father was a bit too much. After all, his attention seems to be on the eldest. What about Sharingan? A thought just came to him. Once again he threw the covers up, turning on the lamp dimly to allow enough light to penetrate the room. With a mirror on his little dresser, he tried to focus on his eyes. When he blinked, nothing happened. Sasuke frowned. Well, this isn't going to be easy as I thought. Suddenly, footsteps are heard. Gasping silently, he dove into the bed, turning the little lamp off before throwing on the covers, yet the sudden movements of thumping allowed the door to be opened. "Sasuke. You okay, dear?" Makoto's voice rang out in the room. She moved into his room, sitting on the bed as the young boy feigned sleep. Quietly, she stared at him, stroking his little hair to the side, a small smile forming on her lips. She watched as her little boy snuggled closely to her as he tossed to his left, unconsciously, grabbing her apron. She leaned in, kissing his temple, smiling. "Sweet dreams, my little Sasuke-kun." After prying his hands off her, she left, not before taking one last look at her sleeping son. The door closed shortly after. Opening one eye, the anomaly sank deep into his covers, thoughts racing a mile a minute. But one question always popped up: how was he going to save the Uchiha clan before the massacre? Chapter 6. Appearance: location unknown. 1 year 4 months later, summertime. Danzo shifts the paper in his hands as his lone eye scans the documents. He nods his head as he reads over the report of the academy students, especially one in particular from a certain clan. "Very good, keep me posted on this boy's progress. He's a very promising ninja. It'll be a shame to lose such talent. Maybe one day I'll recruit him into Root." Dismissed. A ninja bowed before his master, then without a word he disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Once again alone, Danzo relooks at the paper within his grasp. The Uchihas are too dangerous. There must be a way to have them watched. Their visual prowess makes them too dangerous to be left unchecked. He walks, pondering his next step. With Hiruzen dead, this will be complicated. I may have underestimated Tsunade. New to the position, she is as Hokage, but naive she is not. While she may not have any love or resentment for the Uchiha, I sense indifference, yes. Given the history between her clan's rivalry with them, she is a fool for not wanting them in surveillance. It will be her undoing. Flashback to 4 months ago. Enlightening me. Pray to tell me what I'm not seeing. The busty blonde had a vein that was ready to burst from the throbbing that hadn't stopped since the accusation. I may not care for the Uchiha, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to accuse our men of such a feat. We have no concrete evidence that they were behind the attack that happened 2 years ago. Tsunade. Danzo's voice cut through the air. We must not underestimate them. They have every reason to retaliate against the village. We cannot overlook them, neither can we disregard their power. The Sharingan is dangerous, one even more so than the Hyuga's Byakugan. If matured to its full potential, it could mean disaster for village. The other two nodded in agreement while the blonde leaned back, folding her arms underneath her chest, silently glaring at the mummified man before her. Or it can benefit the village tremendously. As Hokage, I will not subject any clansman or anyone else on speculation to what had happened 2 years, Uchiha or not. This will be the end of the discussion on their Kekkei Genkai, she said, matter of fact. But, end of discussion. Tsunade huffed in annoyance. Next order of business, this so-called Leviathan. On the outside Danzo was calm, yet inside a boiling rage was building. No, this will not be the end of the discussion of it. The one thing remained: whatever happened to that scaled beast? Rumor has it that the third gave his life to seal the beast, just as Minato did to seal the fox in his son. Where was that beast, and if there are more, where are they? End of flashback. Danzo scoffed. It is my dream to become Hokage, and I'll protect this village any means possible, and no one will stand in my way. It's been how many days now since I agreed to this little mission? A sigh escapes the young Uchiha, or the anomaly, as he continues to watch his older brother train with Kusan Shisui Uchiha, with quite the boring face for a 3-year-old to have, might I add. 3 years now? Still no progress. My Charka reserves are pathetic for being in the body of a toddler. I only have 4 more years until something happens to the damn clan. I can't remember most of what happens in canon, only the most important events, and I hope this time Haku will be a girl instead of feminine-looking guy. Erg. Sasuke's tiny body shuddered. Curse anime logic. Seriously, why does Japan always have some guys looking like they're girls? Itachi and Shisui were having a light sparring session. Today was the day the older Uchiha sibling was going to graduate from the Ninja Academy. The teachers unanimously agreed let him take the graduation exam early due to Itachi being more than advanced enough for genin level. He consistently scored the highest in each subject and quickly learned any skill taught to him, resulting in him being praised as the best of his generation, which led to their father noticing the potential in him. Itachi blocks a strike to face, then counters with a kick to the stomach. Shisui skids briefly across the battlefield. He lets out a grunt. He flashes a few hand seal before inhaling. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. He exhales quickly, unleashing a fireball the size of a large boulder hurling towards Itachi. Itachi retaliates with his own, Suigaden. The two elements collide, producing steam to cover the battlefield. Sasuke watched in great awe as the two cousins jumped into the fog. Curious, the young boy wanted to get a closer look, yet he was held back by his mother's tone of voice. Sasuke, the young boy sat back down. The anomaly knew that tone of voice, so he decided not to test the waters despite his curiousness taking over him. From the smoke-induced cloud, all that was heard was metal scraping metal, something that made the teeth grind together distastefully. Finally, the smoke cleared, revealing the two struggling Uchiha cousins fighting for dominance. Yamaru, Fugaku with his usually stoic face, came up to the boys with a small smirk. The boys finished with a bow to each other before addressing the Uchiha patriarch. Very good, I'm impressed with your skills. Itachi, very unusual for an Uchiha to have a water affinity. I will have your affinities checked in a moment, but nonetheless, that's my boy. The young anomaly rolled his eyes. You know, I can't believe that this guy overlooked Sasuke, his son. It wasn't until the lake incident with the fireball jutsu that he finally got what he deserved, attention. You know, since Godzilla is technically my partner, so to speak, I wonder if the flame is going to be blue instead of a normal red and orange. Now there was a thought process. Does having a kaiju affect this body and chakra network? If so, what is the difference? Sasuke yawned, smacking his lips. It's been since 7 in the morning that he's been awake. This body is not used to waking up yet, as his mind was up and alert. The Uchiha matriarch looked down her second son with a smile. Tired, Sasuke-kun? You know that's not my real name. He smiled. Hi. Come sleep, a little rest will do you good, my son. The young mother took his hand into her own. A wave of nostalgia hit him of his real mother. The young boy loses his smile, which turns into a frown. The best frown a 2-year could muster. If someone would have told me that I'd be waking up in the Naruto universe, I'd say impossible, but here I am in the impossible with knowledge that could potentially save people or make matters worse, because let's face it, just because I have foreknowledge doesn't mean that I am going to save everyone. I could only hope that I can stomach being a ninja. The hand of the matriarch squeezes his hand. Sometimes I miss being a child, talking with my mother without a care in the world. Sasuke looks back at Itachi one final time before turning a corner. This time, Itachi, you are not facing the burden alone. It was later during the day that both the unsuspecting mother and the anomaly were in one of the parks, where laughter was heard from various children running around. Sasuke was building a sandcastle in the sandbox when a tiny little voice, small as voice, distracted him. Wello, can me pee-way with you? The raven-haired boy stopped to address his companion. She was short, to say the least, and still had a bit of baby fat around the stomach area, but the pink hair was a giveaway. Wearing a yellow shirt with green pants and pink sandals, his onyx eyes gazed into unmistakable green eyes. Sakura, the boy shrugged. He patted the dirt next to him. The girl was on her knees with a bucket in her hand as she began to collect sand. They were silent for a few seconds before the pink-haired girl spoke. Want to build a castle? He shrugged again. I'm Sakura. The two young children worked hard on their castle, with Sakura taking the lead on how it was built. It took a few moments, but they were done, though if you asked Sasuke, it looked like a pile of mud on top of more mud with few trapezoid-shaped towers. Geez, this is hard to look at. Sasuke, he replied after wiping his hands on his pants. We done. Let's pee way. The pink-haired though for a moment. The princess and the dragon. Very original, he thought with an amused snort. I'll be the princess, obviously, and you be the mean old dragon. Sasuke bit his lip. Okay, either this is a coincidence or I'm not seeing the irony in this. Is this because I have Godzilla sealed within me? Someone explain this to me. Meanwhile, not too far, two women gazed upon their children while making small talk with each other. A light conversation between old comrades were taking place about their children, of course. One of the mothers was very enthusiastic about the future of her only daughter. Just think of it, Makoto, if both our children would one day end up in the same team just like we were soon. Mebuki is a fair-skinned woman with shoulder-length, blonde hair with a single bang which falls into her face. She also has green eyes and wears a white kipao dress with 3 red circular designs at the bottom of the front of her dress as well as the back. Underneath the dress, she wears pink 3/4 length pants along with brown sandals. Just think of it when they are older, the woman let a squeal out. Makoto sheepishly laughed while sweat dropping a little. Mebuki, I don't think now is the appropriate time to start meddling with the children's lives. While I am hopeful for the future, that doesn't mean I'm going to start planning on Sasuke love life. She then had a mischievous smile. I remember a long time ago while we were still genin that a certain someone declared her undying love to a certain blonde spiky yondaime. Minato was almost mine and you know it. The Haruno woman replied heatedly, if it weren't for Kushina coming to the village I guarantee I'd be the wife of the fourth. Yup. Turns out your teammate, rival beat you in the end. HMPH. I also recall you flirting with Fugaku at point. Drop it, I get it, she growled. You were the one who started it. Makoto replied with a shrug, her eyes never leaving her son. Besides, you do have a pretty little girl, Mebuki, no sense in dwelling in the past. Too true, my little blossom of joy, I don't know what I'd do without little Sakura-chan. They fell into silence, a comfortable one that is. The echo of chatter filled the air. It was peaceful, a family enjoying time with one another, lovers on a picnic enjoying the warmth of their youth or reflecting the years they spent with each other. To top it off, the weather was pleasant even in mid of July, but it soon would come to end. While the two children continued to play the princess and the dragon, a girl with panda-like buns approached. She smiled as she approached the box. Hello. The two children stopped play to regard her. She a red cheongsam dress with matching red pants. Hi, can I play with you? Okay, Sakura said with glee. The girl smiled, showing some missing baby teeth. I'm Feng Tenten. Uchiha Sasuke and this Haruno Sakura, the raven introduced. Tenten. 15 more minutes then we go home, okay. The girl turned to regard her guardian. Okay, Ne-chan. Sasuke eyebrow rose, not normal for a young boy to do that, but his eyes quickly became saucers when he regarded Tenten's sister. His mouth dropped to the ground when he saw a young girl about Itachi age or a little older wearing a blue kippah with blue pants and black sandals with the same style hair bun as Tenten. Her face rounded, her smile was kind, and she had the same chocolate eyes the girl in the sandbox had, not to mention the hairstyle was panda buns. Chun-Li. Did I fall into a parallel dimension where Street Fighter and Naruto cross? Meanwhile, a young couple enjoying their walk in the park noticed a shadow flew overhead. Both young lovers looked up in curiosity. What was th? The man lost for words when a marvelous light blinded them. Others, soon questioning why it was getting brighter, all of a sudden turned their attention to the sky. Hokage Tower. The fifth Hokage banged her head for the umpteenth time today about paperwork. She was already beginning to regret her decision in taking on the hat, but the other option was not going to happen as long as she lived. Soon a pair of feet came thundering towards her office. The door busted open to reveal Shizune with a mystified look on her face. Lady Tsunade, take a look outside. Shizune, I'm in the middle of paperwork, so no I won't. Screee. That shut her up as she quickly raced to the balcony, her eyes quickly scanning the area for any sign of that strange noise. One of her Anbu pointed to the top of the tower and they quickly used a body flicker technique. The busty blonde quickly shielded her eyes as the sunlight illuminated the airspace of Konoha powerfully. I want every Anbu to find out what in the heck is causing this. Move. Quickly all 30 Anbu dispersed, trying her best to see. She could have sworn that she the light dancing, almost flying. The moment lasted for another 1 or 2 before the light disappears quickly. What on earth was that? She questioned. Was this an attempted attack? Lady Tsunade, she turned to find Danzo, the 2 elders and her apprentice standing before her. Summon an emergency meeting with all the clan heads. Chapter 7. Awakening Part 1. Date, August 20, 2019. Journal log number 151. It has been nearly 2 years since the disappearance of Gojira. Still, I have uncertainty for the future. It is only a matter of time before all the titans emerge from their slumber to notice a change in the chain of command. Already some are awakening. Though I wish not to dwell on it, I cannot ignore the fact that military with the United Nations of the world has gotten together to deal with them. With the small appearance of more MUTOS, with the absence of the apex predator, there is no way that balance will remain. So far there have been rumors about a secret government project in how to deal with these creatures. Rumor has it that they are digging the fossil that we found back in 1999 in the Philippines, as well as a missile with the potential to disintegrate the atom, far more powerful than the atom and hydrogen bomb. What type of weapon could have the potential to do this? I fear that we are playing with forces that should not be trifled with. In less grievous news, the egg that was founded back in 2017 on Skull Island was a major discovery for us. We have taken samples of it. Examining it in every angle possible, though the sonogram that was taken from it proved a startling discovery, or rather a unique one. Within the egg laid a relative of Gojira, a mini Gojira, or as we like to call him, Manila or Godzilla Jr. The creature inside has shown very little progress in terms of activity. It slumbers undisturbed as it was for millions of years. The question remains. Why? Its brain activity is normal, yet it will not awaken. Rodin is looking for the egg. Each time his attack is getting gruesome, fiercer, and relentless. He will not stop until he finds the egg. Still, with this discovery, I hope to make sure that this Godzilla will protect and bring balance back to the order. Dr. Serizawa and his assistant Dr. Graham sit in the one of Monarch hidden base in the research department looking over the data from the unhatched egg. There is silence between sensei and student, yet the sound of keyboards clicking make it so the room is not so silent. Hardin's eyes scan the screen as the click of the mouse widened the image of the young dinosaur-looking reptile. Impressive, he mutters, zooming in on a particular section of the lower half of the image. Sensei. He motions for his assistant to come by his side, not taking his eyes off the screen. She leans to his right, scanning the image with curiosity. When her eyes land on a particular part, she gasps in shock. That's not possible, but it is. Dr. Serizawa, please report to the science department. Your attention is immediately required. Both turn to each other. They knew if a discovery was important, he'd be the first to know. What did the response team find that was of importance that needed his attention? Then again, you are not one of two intellectuals who are the guiding force behind Monarch for no reason. They quickly stopped their research before heading out. What could the science department want? Did you not leave them to their own devices to investigate the rising titans? Vivian asked, going through her head all scenario. Or did the military want to have a word with you about something? I don't know, but we are about to find out. They entered through double doors followed by a hallway which curved to the right, which leads to a sharp left turn to an elevator shaft. It opened, to reveal more Monarch employees coming out and talking. Only a few remained in the shaft as they hit a button. The door closes as it descends downward. The lights now turn to a dark blue as they go deeper into the base. The elevator comes to a slow descent, then it slides open to reveal a very busy and lively scene. One of the scientists spotted them. He rushed over to greet them. He was a man in his mid-50s with white hair that looks like it has been receding, with glasses framing his black eyes. He wears the lab coat over his unbuttoned red shirt that reveals a white t-shirt from the waist down, brown khaki with brown shoes. His face is in awe. Rick, the Japanese man, regarded. What with the commotion? You need to see for yourself, and I got other things to tell you as well. The trio head to a section of the lab where a group of 5 individuals in PPE are examining a metal object. What is that? It came from space. This caught their attention. The second lead of Monarch gazed at the foreign object as her colleagues went on discussing this strange piece. It was metallic silver, shaped like an upside-down cone, circular at the bottom to support the entire frame, with a dark circle in the middle of its design going around it. It looked like a capsule of some sort, yet it came from space. Was it possible that life existed outside of Earth, outside of the Milky Way galaxy? She once again turned her attention to the conversation at hand, leaving her thoughts for the moment. Part of any of metal known to the periodic table. Its alloy is much denser than anything we've either seen. We tried everything from lasers, to heating it up and try to take it apart. Rick passed his hand through his hair. That thing is harder than my grandmother's coconut. Rick. What? I was going to say pie. He replied quickly. She always loved to burn the damn thing to an extra crispy instead of medium well-done juicy flavor pie. What's wrong with pie? Ishiro waved it off. Never mind. All sudden the capsule began to glow a light blue. Everyone stopped moving to observe this strange phenomenon occur. The top opens, revealing an antenna. It quickly scans the room with a red light. Once it dies down, something else happens, and a light flickers as a woman appears before them. She is dressed in fine linen, all white, covered from the shoulders down, with a red sash in the middle of her gown. She has dark chocolate hair with matching eyes. She appears to be around her 30s. She then speaks. Greetings. My name is Layla. The years is 2301 AD, the time of the month January the 5th. If you are watching this, then it means that the capsule has appeared before you within a meteorite. Rick leaned over and whispered into the doctor's ears. That's exactly how we found it. Technology has advanced very far to allow us to go further into the reaches of space, even allow us to build a ship with a hyperjump. We have visited much civilization among the stars. Some malevolent while others were benevolent. Sadly, we cannot return to our home planet Earth. Whispers went around the room, some questioning if this was a hoax or not. It has been terraformed by the creature or titan you know as Monster X, or King Ghidorah. The one who is many, a voice said. It may seem unbelievable that time travel is an impossibility, but with the proof you see before, it is very real. Some of you are questioning why we cannot return to Earth. It has become inhabitable to us with lack of oxygen in the atmosphere. Within this capsule lies plans along with the technology within to help with the technology of your era to mass produce a weapon capable of ending a titan, as well a very special weapon called Tiga Torch, in which the only one can use, given to us by. While the hologram explained the origin of the technology, it went on to give a glimpse of their doomed future due to the mishap of the current missing Godzilla. A military personnel comes whispering in Ishiro's ear. He nods, then beckons to Rick. Get as much information as you can from this. I want to see a full report from this. The other man nodded, then he questions, where you are going? We are going to the United Nations. Flying over the Pacific Ocean, Rodan soars through the sky at hypersonic speed. 2 years. 2 long gruesome years since he lost that egg. To make matters worse, the pathetic primates were the cause of his misfortunate. How dare them? How dare they come to steal his egg? That stupid overgrown primate was another thing he disliked. If that gorilla never intervened, then he would have finished off those insects once and for all. After flying over their cities, leaving nothing more than destruction in its wake in search of the egg, Rodan squawked angrily, still sore after being beaten down by Kong. Next time it will be him that will be at the mercy. Wait, what was that noise? The sound of a dozen Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor came soaring to the location of where the flying kaiju was. This Eagle 1, I got eyes on the target. Copy that, Eagle 1. Turn that ancient fossil to dust. Copy. The pilot in the jet gives the command to the other fighter pilots to positioning themselves in a V position. We are going to have ourselves one big barbecue with some mashed potatoes with gravy and roasted peppers. Get your dinner plates ready, boys. It's bird season and it is officially open. With that command, the fighter jets started to flanking to the right as well to the left. With their weapons hot ready to go, they began their assault on the ancient kaiju. Now Rodan circles around, floating in the air, watching these strange flying creatures keenly. Soon he sees little lights heading towards him. He lets out an angry screech. These lights stung, but they did not penetrate his skin. Still, if these creatures of the air wanted to fight, then they were going to fight to the death. Only one was going to be ruling of the air. Quickly he maneuvered up by flapping his wings downwards into the clouds above. The pilots lost sight of him nonetheless. They pursued him in the clouds. It was in the middle of the night. The surrounding area was in a dark blue hue. Above them the stars were glistening, giving them some type of light to see in the dark, yet the dark clouds remained ominous. Eagle 1. I lost sight of the target. Be careful, this thing is fast. Keep your eyes peeled for any sudden movement, it could be anywhere. Without warning, the flying pterodactyl zoomed in for the kill, destroying 2 fighter jets in the process while pecking down on a third wing. Evasive maneuvers, Eagle Squad. Quickly they used an Immelman turn, an aerobatic maneuver that resulted in level flight in the opposite direction. Now facing their opponent, the remaining craft redoubled their efforts trying to bring the flying beast down. What happened next turned the tide of battle in favor of the kaiju. Wait a minute, is that thing glowing? Indeed, it was glowing. The horns on his head turned a bright orange color. It was only for a moment, then it began to emit a ray from its mouth. The beam cut right through 4 more fighter jets. The shocked pilots looked down on to where their fallen brethren were. The battle was lost. All remain Eagle Squadron, return to base immediately. The order was heeded. With haste the remaining 5 pilots zoomed out of the airspace quickly as they could to report on the findings. Rodan saw these beasts flying away from him. Letting out a screech of victory, he pursued them. He wasn't done with them yet. From the blinking radar, the pilot from Eagle 12 cursed under breath. Heads up, Eagle 1 looks Tweety wants to play some more. We just lost our best people on the squadron, Eric. I'm not losing any more men or women to this monster. There was a pause in communications. We are going to have to outrun it. All units prepare to increase speed to Mach 2.3. The drag around the aircraft began to take shape, then within moments, a sonic boom is heard throughout the night sky. Rodan was taken by surprise, though it was quickly overtaken by his need to hunt. It was going to prove to these creatures why he was king of the air. Just as quickly he was gaining speed, he caught up to them. The pilots began to fly around in hope to avoid being killed. The beak was wide open to consume his prey as his sights were on one of the planes, to which was Eric. Oh damn, oh damn, oh damn. He was panicking, that behemoth was on him like a cat to a mouse. Eric tried to shake him. I can't, he's on my tail. Abruptly, the flying pterodactyl-like creature halted its attack, allowing the crew to escape. Rodin's attention was elsewhere. Yes, something was calling out. It needs to investigate. Something was calling it. It flew off into the night sky in the direction to where the call was heading, westward. New York. The UN, the United Nations, or UN for short, is an intergovernmental organization tasked with maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations, achieving international cooperation, and being a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. It was established after World War II, to prevent future wars, and succeeded the ineffective League of Nations. Today it was gathered with a few generals, one of them being Admiral William Stenz of the Army, along with Monarch's Director of Technology Sam Coleman, Ishiro Serizawa and Vivian Graham, to discuss the future of Monarch. A video clip is shown on the fight between Godzilla and the female Muto as he chomps down on her neck, then it skips to show Godzilla fire his atomic breath at it. What we are witnessing here, Senators, is the return of a once-forgotten superspecies. Sam Coleman was a young man who joined Monarch back in 2015. He has light brown hair and beard on his face, about 5 feet 11 in height, wearing a suit as he presents the monster to the best of his ability. Godzilla, the MUTOS, Kong. We believe that these titans, with others like them, provide an essential balance to our world. Some might pose a threat, but Monarch is uniquely prepared to determine which of these titans are here to threaten us or protect us. Thank you for the 5th grade history lesson, Mr. Coleman. Senator Williams rolled her eyes. But you haven't provided one good reason why Monarch shouldn't fall under military jurisdiction, or why these creatures shouldn't be exterminated. Need I remind you that Monarch was tasked in finding and destroying these radioactive monsters? Yet you either can't or won't tell us how many there are or why they are showing themselves now. Ishiro uncomfortably looks to his right. He meets Admiral Williams's eyes briefly. Maybe it's about time that the military put them down for good. Killing them would be a mistake, Ishiro said. They have returned because of us. Remember the atomic testing that took place in 1954 near Bikini? It was our testing of atomic weaponry that awoken Gojira. Others have awoken due to strip mining and seismic surveys, such as the case for the MUTOs. These are not monsters but animals that have come to reclaim a world that was once theirs. The senator narrows her eyes. It almost sounds like you are protecting them, Dr. Serizawa, as if you admire them. Do you not understand that these creatures have caused us billions upon billions of Uncle Sam's dollar to rebuild fallen cities? And it's not just here but around the globe. Reports of a giant spider in Hong Kong. A flying fossil in our atmosphere. A mutated iguana which could be a relative of your pet Godzilla. I admire all forms of life. He shot back. He stands up. Senators, if we hope to survive, we must find a way to coexist with the titans. With Gojira. He pauses. He looks down briefly, not meeting the eyes of the senator. Is something the matter, doctor? You wanted the truth. It wasn't a question. The reason these creatures are showing up now is because the apex predator is missing. Vivian and Sam look towards him in horror. He wouldn't dare. Gojira has been missing for the last 5 years. There is no sign of him. No carcass. Nothing. A creature of that magnitude doesn't disappear into thin air. With this disappearance, it is disrupting the balance, which in turn will cause these creatures to fight for dominance. This the reason as well for the awakening. Silence hung in the air. It seemed like forever, then he spoke again. But don't let this news interrupt with the fact that we must be able to coexist with the titans. It was then that Vivian found her voice, a symbiotic relationship, if you will. Like the lion and the mouse. Or the scorpion and the frog. Countered the senator. So you would make Godzilla our pet? No, we would be his. Laughter erupted from the other senators, while a buzzing from Dr. Graham's phone beckoned her to look at her phone, in which led her to show her teacher as he quietly mutters the need to go. He saw and nodded. He gets up and prepares to leave, gathering his papers. Sam tried his best to cover for them. Now that's not what Dr. Serizawa meant. He lets a nervous laugh escape. No one is implying that anyone would be Godzilla's pet. Sam, we have to go. Dr. Serizawa, Dr. Graham. This meeting is not adjourned. The senator called out. They ignored her. I hope you understand the consequence of leaving this room, walking out that door. He stops then turns around. I understand perfectly, but something has happened to one of our bases. The astral plane. Gah. I'm so bored, cried the usually hyperactive ninja. I still don't understand why Baka couldn't just be me, for crying out loud, like seriously why it had to be Uteme? Sasuke ignored the blonde as he watches the anomaly interact with his family. This K person was an enigma. Was it necessary to seek out Naruto early on? Why give Itachi such a hard time and only allow his mother to coddle him? What was his game plan? Did he even have one? Oi! I'm talking to you. I'm sorry, did you say something? Naruto jaw slacked a little. You are not pulling a Kakashi on me. TTEABYO. You are an idiot and I have no reason to converse with you, so kindly leave me be unless you want to have Chidori through the chest again like the Valley of the End. I'm going to kick your ass. Hagamoro sighed. These two were a lot worse than his children. Then again, these were his children, a reincarnation of his fallen sons. He missed the simplicity of being a father. Heck, he was even missing his wife. If only he hadn't just trusted his younger son to his legacy alone and allowed both to inherit his will, then maybe, just maybe, things would have been different. Yet if what Kay says is true, and it is, then he would have his hands full. Yet the boy was too soft for his liking, that much the sage noticed. Kay was a kind-hearted individual. Once you saw him from first glance, he looked like someone who would not harm a fly. Being a shinobi wasn't going to be all fun and games, it was life or death situation. He rubbed his temples. I should have never let him go alone. Having second thoughts, old friend. No, but I wish I could have done something more to help our new friend along his journey, he said, but alas, we cannot interfere. Right. Fate then twiddled her fingers. Remember that prophecy I gave? Yes, what about it? She sheepishly rubs her head. You are going to laugh at this one. Turns what I said. What for him it was for a different dimension. Hey, but I am serious about those 15 kaijus. A brow was raised. Such a perfectionist you are too. Hey, I don't always get it right, okay? She huffed with blush on her face. She crossed her arms underneath her chest. I'm entitled to make a mistake or two once in a while. I panicked. It's not every day that you have to take monster from a universe and drop him in another, sealed within someone who has foreknowledge of this world. Besides, it's not like we can just go ahead and send help. The sage of the six paths paused. The gears in his head started to turn. He smiled. He smelled a loophole. Chapter 8. Awakening Part 2. Monarch Post. Antarctica. Antarctica is Earth's southernmost continent. It contains the geographic South Pole and is situated in the region of the Southern Hemisphere, almost entirely south of the Antarctic Circle, and is surrounded by the Southern Ocean. At 14,200,000 square kilometers, 5,500,000 square miles, it is the fifth largest continent and nearly twice the size of Australia. At 0.00008 people per square kilometer, it is by far the least densely populated continent. About 98% of Antarctica is covered by ice that averages 1.9 kilometers, 1.2 miles, 6,200 feet, in thickness, which extends to all but the northernmost reaches of the Antarctic Peninsula. Antarctica, on average, is the coldest, driest, and windiest continent, and has the highest average elevation of all the continents. Most of Antarctica is a polar desert, with annual precipitation of 20 centimeters, 7.9 in. Along the coast and far less inland. Anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 people reside throughout the year at research stations scattered across the continent. At one particular post of Monarch, a killing had ensued 3 days earlier, led by a man by the name of Alan Jonah. Previously a colonel in the British Army and a special agent in the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, from 1990 to 2004. However, after living through many tours of duty in the service, he became disenchanted by mankind, so he defected and went rogue. Since then, Jonah had been connected to a team of armed mercenary units working behind a mask of socio-political deceit. In 2005, Monarch became aware of Jonah when he and a team of accomplice mercenaries were caught attempting to trespass onto a subterranean Mudo dig site, after which Jonah was jailed in a Pakistani prison. Sometime later, he presumably escaped or was broken out of confinement, labeled a Class 1 eco-terror threat. 2 weeks prior, Jonah and his eco-terrorists raid a Monarch facility in the Yunnan province of China, which holds the larva of an insect like Titan dubbed Titanus mazura. The eco-terrorists swiftly clear out the facility of all Monarch personnel, with Jonah personally executing the head scientist himself. Jonah and his men proceed to capture paleobiologist Emma Russell and her daughter, Madison, but fail to capture the Titan as she retreats behind a waterfall and seals herself in a cocoon. Wasting no time, Jonah and his men travel to Antarctica along with their new hostages. They arrive at a Monarch containment facility holding the Titan, Monster Zero, and proceed to kill all Monarch personnel stationed there. After securing the area, Jonah, Emma, and Madison marvel at the sight of Monster Zero, who is frozen solid under hundreds of feet of ice. Jonah orders his soldiers to begin placing charges and drilling holes to help free the Titan. One man off to the right sees his iPad lit up. Quickly he turns to his superior. "They're here. Keep them busy." The man nods, reaching for his radio. "Launch reaction force, move out." "All right, gents. Got the green light." One of the hostages by the name of Madison, a young 12-year-old girl, looks towards her mother with uncertainty in her eyes. Her mother gives her a quick look before returning to the orca. Dr. Emma Russell is a person of interest to Jonah. Having previously stalked Emma and attempted to raid her labs in various locations like Cairo and Tokyo, Jonah takes her hostage to gain control of the orca, a device Emma and her husband had invented capable of potentially communicating with Titans with the potential of controlling them. Meanwhile, just landing in front of the base, Monarch has prepared a group of military men and women to infiltrate their own base. With weapons locked and loaded, they scan the area with drones as they patiently wait for the helicopter to land on the frozen continent. Once down, the small group of fighters exit the flying contraption, entering the base swiftly yet cautiously. Back down, the eco-terrorists are just about downloading the last of the bombs, one of them named Ash Arms. The last device, detonator, is ready. "Let's go." The group of terrorists along with their hostages leave the block of ice alone along with charged bombs. They knew they had to move quickly before Monarch comes to ruin their plans for their vision of a new world. As they start to make their departure from the lower levels of the base, Monarch troops begin to make their arrival. The elevator shaft opens, revealing the small army. They quickly run down a tunnel before their commanding officer signals them to stop the advance. "Keep your eyes peeled and remember, we have friendlies here." She motions them to move through with caution. "Move to Tunnel 2. Stay on overwatch." "You got it, Chief." They moved in sync, lights moving to dispel the shadows from the tunnel overhead, making sure that they cover every area. Suddenly, one stopped, motioning with his fist for the company to halt. He watches as the shadow of unknown gunman moves. As he sees through the tarp, he starts to count down from 3, 2, boom. The troops staggered and all hell breaks loose. From the safety of the helicopter, the team of Monarch watches in utter horror as the shots were heard, and their troops screaming for backup or trying to get to a safe haven. Serizawa head turned from the machine that laid before him. He personally wanted a closer look at the technology that, supposedly, came from the future. Though with all the noise that was happening it was impossible to concentrate, he was lucky enough that metal object was able to be transported, unlike the egg which still at the main lab. Sighing, he goes over to where the others are huddled around the computer monitor. There he sees a blonde woman along with a girl with brown hair with the terrorist group. The shooting from Monarch side stops firing since they know that this is Mark Russell family. Before they headed over to the Antarctic post, they received a message stating that Outpost 61 had been attacked by Jonah along with his mercenary unit, leaving only the mother and daughter alive, which in turn lead them to seek out the co-creator of the orca, a former Monarch scientist, Mark Russell. Mark Russell's had a lifelong interest in animal sounds ever since growing up in Warren Valley, Ohio, and talking with the family's German Shepherd. Mark went on to become a respected expert in multiple disciplines consisting of animal behavior, zoomusicology, biocommunication, and apex predation. He graduated from the University of California, Berkeley with a Master of Science in Ethology, as well as getting a Ph.D. in bioacoustics from MIT. After meeting and marrying fellow bioacoustics expert, Emma Williams, the two of them became the co-leads of Project Orca and leaders in the field of bioacoustics. Even though it was initially developed to deter whales and dolphins from shorelines, Mark and Emma developed a prototype of the orca, a device representing a possible evolutionary leap in interspecies communication as it utilizes an ultrasonic wave map capable of detecting, transmitting, and translating audio at any frequency with great speed and accuracy. Back in 2005, Mark and Emma caught Monarch's attention when they first activated the orca prototype, transmitting a signal similar to a previously recorded Titan song. Believing the signal to be a new Titan emerging, Monarch sent a field unit alongside Dr. Serizawa and Dr. Graham to investigate and found Mark and Emma in an MIT lab. Together, Mark and Emma continued to make groundbreaking breakthroughs with their research and revolutionized interspecies communication. 2 years later, on May 4, 2007, they were activated by Monarch. As a member of Monarch, Mark preferred fieldwork and opted to stay out of the agency's politics and its ambition to find a way for humans and giant monsters to coexist. 5 years earlier, 2014 happened, shortly after Godzilla's return and subsequent defeat of the MUTOs in San Francisco. Mark left Monarch and became estranged from Emma because of the loss the battle had caused them, and their disagreements on how the Orca device could potentially affect the world. Both parents had 2 children, one of them being Madison, their daughter with short brown hair with matching brown eyes at a height of 5 feet 0 inches, and their eldest son named Andrew. Before the disaster, they were happy as they could be. However, everything changed the moment the MUTOs arrived in California. Because of this, Mark became an alcoholic, drowning his sorrows in a bottle after bottle while his wife became busy with just working. To further escalate the estrangement they had, Emma wanted to find a way to live in harmony with these titans, while Mark wanted nothing more for these creatures to be extinguished from the face of the earth. Thus leading Monarch to find the only person who knew anything about the device that could potentially speak to the titans. Flashback: Colorado, in an open field where everything seems to be at peace. It was morning. The golden hue of the sun coated the region of the V-shaped valley, making it glow. A valley is a low area between hills or mountains, typically with a river running through it. Depending on the topography, the rock types and the climate, a lot of transitional forms between V, U and plain valleys exist. Their bottoms can be broad or narrow, but characteristic is also the type of valley shoulder. The broader a mountain valley, the lower its shoulders are located in most cases. An important exception is canyons, where the shoulder almost is near the top of the valley's slope. The sky above is bright, colored by a light blue with a bit of cloud of different shapes and sizes. Even some of the evergreens mist rise up to meet the clouds that were above. Instead, it blankets this valley, covering the green as if to protect from being seen. Though in one particular meadow, he observes, with camera in one hand and a radio in the others, he listens to the sound of ravaging wolves devouring their meal. It's soothing, as he nods, just listening to the sound of munching, crunching, panting and growling as the pack eat without a care in the world. But then suddenly he hears another noise from afar, the sound of a chopper approaching. With this noise the pack run off their meal interrupted. Quickly he stands up from behind a log, in which he was posted at, looks up to see the helicopter land in front of him as it descends down from the clouds. We fast forward to the log cabin that he has miles away from his former destination. Mark is obviously not happy with the development as he learns that his wife has been kidnapped. The feed cuts out there. The survivors haven't been able to give us much more than what the footage allows. Only that Emma and Madison were the only ones taken. Vivian explains as she shows it from a laptop. "I'm sorry, Mark. I should have been there for him," he says, his face impassive. "Who are they?" "We don't know yet," Graham states. She then shows him a picture of Orca device. "We believe they were after this." Mark's eyes widen in disbelief. "You didn't?" His suspicion was confirmed by the look of the guilty faces on the 3 scientists. "It's the Orca." Sam began nervously. That's why we think they need Emma." She believed that if we could somehow replicate the biosonar the Titans used to communicate. "I know what the damn thing is. I helped build the prototype, if you recall correctly." He turns to the other 2 scientists, jerking his thumb to the man who addressed him. "Who is this guy?" The man introduced himself. Sam Coleman. I'm the head of technology. I joined Monarch, shortly after you left. I'm a big fan of your wife's work and you. That's not even so weird. I'm sorry." Mark looked at him quizzically. He was strange that he could tell. Shaking his head in bewilderment, the prototype was destroyed. How? Emma decided to build another. After San Francisco, she went home to Boston, spent years developing it. Graham said, she thought it could help. Help what? Play God. No, Graham stated quickly, help prevent another attack. Mark huffed in annoyance, a hand passing through his hair. The Orca was a grad school science project. It was meant taught to keep whales away from the shoreline. Not so you could talk to your little creatures out there. Listen to me. He paused. They'll think it's one of them. You use the wrong frequency on one of them, and you're gonna be responsible for 1,000 San Franciscos. Which is why we need to get it back, Ishiro claimed with a stern voice that left no room for argument. Emma always said, no one knew the Orca better than you. It shouldn't even exist. That may be, Mark, but it's fallen into the wrong hands. End of flashback. Now the desperate man was in the facility with a handgun that he found on one of the dead bodies. He began to make his way to the shaft to gain access to the tunnels. He lost his family once, he is not going to do it again. After going through a series of tunnels, steel ladders, he finally confronted the kidnappers, pointing the gun at them. Let them go. One of the men named Ash was about to fire when he was dropped like a fly. From a higher elevation, Colonel Diane Foster found a way to get the higher ground on the enemy. As her training kicked in, she fired up her opponent, killing him instantly. The blonde-haired woman stared in disbelief that her ex-husband was here. She started to move forward to him, yet she could not. Madison, on the other hand, at the sound of his voice, began to trudge forward. Walk to me now. Come on, honey, come on. From her scope, as she sat, Foster observed carefully the scene. Jonah had found safety from behind the bar since he was in a crouching position. Barnes, I got 2 hostages, 1 target down. Now, come on, Maddie. I don't have a shot. I repeat, I don't have shot. Mark started to notice the hesitance in his daughter moving. He couldn't believe this. He here was risking his neck to try to save both his ex-wife and daughter, and neither were or just too damn scared to move. What was going on here? Emma, Madison, come on. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Torn between her parents, the young girl just couldn't decide whom she wanted to be with. On one hand, she wanted to be with her father, on the other, her mother dreams were important. She looked at her father longingly. Still in her heart, she couldn't betray her mother. When Emma called out to her, she retreated back, baffling both Foster and Mark. Emma then switches places with her to grab the detonator that was on the floor, which was dropped by Ash when he was killed. Swallowing heavily, she glances at her once beloved man, to the huge block of ice containing Monster X. She was hesitant at first, though her mind was made up. Emma, I'm sorry. She pushes the button on the detonator. Run. The chain reaction it had as the ice started to crack caused the area to shake as if an earthquake was trembling the tectonic plates of the southern Arctic pole. With everything in mass chaos, the two groups managed to make a dash for it, with the eco-terrorist firing at the man as they escape. He manages to get to the elevator shaft to avoid being a pincushion. Right above him, Foster loses her balance as she is thrown over the edge, yet her hands reach the bars that were supporting her. I'm going to kill that woman if it's the last thing that I do. While one struggles to pull herself up, the other is racing to play catch-up with the already ascending shaft. Though seeing how the military men are just arriving to help their leader, Mark palms his face hard. Of course, things were never simple, were they? So close, so damn close. Gritting his teeth, he punches the downward button, angry at himself for letting his wife slip through his fingers. Still, it wasn't worth saving his wife if he allowed these brave men and women to die with the whole base falling apart. The elevator is brought to help the ailing military personnel while his wife's got away. Martinez, Foster, come on, get in. Alan Jonah, along with his merry band of mercenary, arrives at the top floor first. Once their temporary prison shifts open, they make a run to their own chopper. The pilots quickly jump to the front of the plane, not even bothered to check for clearance. There was no time. While the mother and daughter had a brief conversation. What's Dad doing here? I don't know, honey. The chopper is off from the ground. Nevertheless, Madison looked at her with tears in her eyes. Her father was still down there. Couldn't they do anything? Mom, please. We can't leave him. Emma paused momentarily. Her daughter was right, they couldn't leave Mark, but what could she do? It was Alan breaking her out of her thoughts. What are you waiting for? Wake it up. The blonde stared at him before activating the orca at the edge of the open gate, yet there was a pause in her activation. Let's go. Move it or lose it, people. Monarch forces ran as fast as they could to get back to the chopper. Everywhere was chaos. The ice beneath their feet started to break. A golden light was surrounding the already falling base with the area. A few men didn't survive the cracks forming as they fell through towards their demise. The others were thrown off balance as they witnessed a giant hole of fire coming up from it, as if the earth up its mouth to show the fiery furnace of hellfire spewing from the pit. Mark slowly got back up. As he did, his gaze eyed the copter. He couldn't believe it, his own wife. What in the world was she doing? Then he heard the orca was now live booming. That was not a good sign. Suddenly, the fog which surrounded their feet was being sucked into the gap. Diane had a very bad sense of dread building. Quickly she started to yell, breaking everyone out of their stupor. Let go. Let's go, hot damn it. They didn't need to be told twice. Quickly everyone bolted from the scene to the safety of the helicopter they arrived in. The colonel started radioing. Get the chopper ready. Get the chopper ready. They didn't get to witness the rise of Monster Zero as it began to stretch its muscles from the millions of years of hibernation. Not one, or two but three golden heads along with two golden spike tails began moving from the pit. The three-headed dragon looked surveying the area in three different directions. Something was different in the air, as if something was missing. Yes, he couldn't sense him, that accursed reptile that imprisoned him all those years ago. He needed to investigate. The beast then spreads its golden wings to get out of the hole that it was in. It supported itself as it rose. The monarch men were about to turn around to open fire when their commanding officer shouted, "Don't you even think about it. We're not going to win this fight." Cursing under their breaths, they made inside the now ready-to-go chopper. "We'll do an emergency vertical takeoff at max RPMs. All systems are a go. Just get us the blazes out of here, Solider. That's an order." Soon the chopper took off at insane speeds, with everyone minus the colonel along with others were still strapping themselves in. It trembled under the strain of how quickly it needed to ascend. For those of them that weren't strapped in, they were eating metal or lying on top of each. "Ow. Martinez, get off." Soon the aircraft steadies itself as it races off away from Monster Zero. They briefly turn around while Martinez is commenting at the scene unfolding before their very eyes. "You've got to be kidding." The creature extends wings to take off. It flies into the unknown, in the coolness of the night. Madison sighs in relief as the gates close, knowing that her father was alive and well. Despite that fact, she begins to question if going with her mother, not her father, was the right choice to make. "This is Raptor 1 to Argos. Requesting immediate urgent extract." "Again," I said, "urgent extraction?" Mark couldn't believe it. His wife Emma did the unthinkable. The question now was why? The next day felt surreal. Mark awoke still trying to process what had happened the other day. It just all seemed like a dream to everyone, yet it happened. He slowly gets up from bed, making his way to the latrine to brush his teeth, at least to not have morning breath. At the bridge of the Argos, Colonel Foster and Dr. Coleman were arguing back and forth. "I know what I saw, Sam, and I'm telling you, she pulled that trigger." "All due respect, Colonel, you saw wrong." "Okay. She wouldn't have done that. For crying out loud, she recruited pretty much everyone in this room." Rick, who was tracking Monster Zero, injected with a possibility. Maybe Jonah forced her, right? Maybe he used Madison as leverage. No, it had to be someone else. Emma. All heads looked up, a weary Mark slowly making his way towards them. It was Emma. Foster saw it right. It was her. No one forced her to push that button. "Are you sure?" Sam asked, still not believing. Mark gave him a dirty look, one that said, "I know what I saw." First, the Titans are waking up from hibernation, if not very slowly, but there are a few out there codenamed Kumanga, Zilla, Rodin. Soon after that, Mothra is released. And now, Monster Zero. Anyone else sensing a pattern here? Yes, and not a good one. It's as if she's trying to start a mass awakening. This came from Dr. Eileen Chen, a third-generation monarch operative in her family, after her mother and grandmother. With her twin sister Dr. Ling, Dr. Chen would continue a family legacy of making some of mankind's greatest evolutionary discoveries in the agency. Eileen became Monarch's leading mythologist, specializing in using ancient mythology as a guide for research and recon on Titans. She has black hair with brown eyes, with a rounded face, wearing a suit over. "Well, it's just too bad that no one tried to warn you that was gonna happen," Mark sarcastically mocked. The Asian woman growled at him. Ishiro sighed. This was getting complicated by the day. He went back to tinkering with the strange machine. This was complex than he gave it credit for. With a small twist of the machine, he heard a clicking noise happen. A compartment opened, revealing a U-shaped torch inside. Curious, he stuck his hand in it to take the piece out, examining the piece he had in his palm. The metal piece was a combination of white and gold, with the tube pure white while the rims were made of gold. It had a strange wing with gold leafing to it. He looks up from it for the moment, then puts in his pocket of the inside of his jacket. All of a sudden it started to get bright, as if the sun was getting towards its peak. All personnel stopped what they were doing, viewing this strange event. Does anyone know what is going on here? SCREE. A sudden flash of light, and both personnel along with the Argos vanish until thin air with the bright light. When the light died down, everyone in Argos had to rub their eyes sockets. It was immensely bright, almost looking directly into the sun. "Everyone okay?" Foster rubbed her eyes. "Martinez? Barnes? We good, Colonel?" Rick went back to his computer. It was nothing but snow on the screen. He began to type something and yet it remained unchanged. Well, this sucks. What is it, Rick? Apparently, he said, leaning back on his chair frustrated. When that light hit us, it jammed our signal to the satellites. We have zero communication. That can't be. Try again in a few minutes. All right. Ishiro went back to his side project only to find that the mysterious device was missing. His eyes widened. It was just here. Where did it go? He looked frantically underneath the desk or above it. The machine was gone. Quickly he checked his pockets. He breathed. At least he had the torch in his jacket. The light is still out there. Once again the light danced in front of them. It was like it was trying to tell them something, yet they couldn't figure out what it was. It continued to dance around, waiting patiently for them, still glowing very brightly. Mark started to notice a pattern in the movement. He noticed the wings and body gently swaying in the air. It wants us to follow it. Foster looked towards Serizawa. He nodded, set a course to follow that thing. The light began to move away from them at a very fast pace. The Argos followed, just not as fast since they had to save a bit on fuel. The being within the light allowed their instincts to take over. That mysterious woman accelerated her process, told her that something had happened in a different universe. She also mentioned that her symbiotic partner was no longer in their world but in hers, in place called Konoha. The woman granted her a temporary power for now, so it understood that her world was thrown off balance by one person taking away the apex predator away. Who would do such a thing? So it had to make sure that it leads the humans to this village hidden in the leaves. She had no time to scour the land, just go on instincts, following the echo that her species and Godzilla species had done through the millennials. Then, she heard it, a faint echo. She sped up, excited to see this place. Soon enough she saw trees that hid a pathway below. The trees were thick, reminding her of a dense forest. She followed this path to lead straight to the gate of Konoha. She flew over, gently hovering over the quiet village. Screee. She hovers for another moment, lasting for another 1 or 2 before sensed that the humans were on their way. Quickly she brightened up the atmosphere, then in a flash of light disappears quickly. The Lady Hokage issued an emergency, wasting no time to gather everyone together to discuss this strange phenom. The village council room was filled by clan heads, the elders and villagers themselves, each murmuring about the strange light that appeared before them in the sky. I was in the park when it happened. It was so beautiful too. It's strange, I was cleaning the yard when the sun decided to brighten, then that strange noise. Choza Akamichi scratched his chin. A Jonin of Konohagakure and former teammate of Shikaku Nara and Inoichi Yamanaka. Together they were the previous generation of the Ino Shika Cho trio. He is also the 15th head of the Akamichi clan. Choza is a tall, plump man with long, spiky red hair and purple markings on his cheeks, with the latter being a common trait in the Akamichi clan. Usually, he wears a samurai-like outfit which entails a black suit completed with armor that has the kanji for food. She, on it, also wearing a rope belt, handguards, and instead of a forehead protector, a hachimaki tied around his head. Today he wears a kimono. He looks over to his longtime friend Shikaku, the head of the Nara clan. What do you think of this, Shikaku? The pineapple-haired man stroked his goatee. He wears a fishnet shirt with cargo pants. Troublesome if you ask me. I've never seen anything like it. However, I will not rule out that it could be a possible summon from enemy ninjas. With all the fame we acquired from both the Second and Third Shinobi War, one wouldn't pass us if Iwagakure was behind this. The large man sighs. That Tsuchikage really knows how to hold a grudge. The scarred-faced man chuckled. The doors opened. The clicking of heels is heard. All eyes focus on the middle podium where Tsunade Senju declares in a powerful voice, "All right. Let's get this meeting underway." She takes a pen, going down her list. Roll call. Aburame Shibi of the Aburame clan. Present. Akamichi Choza of Akamichi clan. Present. Hitaki Kakashi of the Hitaki clan. Silence surrounded the room. A random person coughed. Tsunade eyebrow twitched. She heard rumors that Hitaki was always late to important meetings. The blonde-haired woman really didn't want to believe it. Not wanting to waste time, she skipped over him. Yusuke Hokuto of the Hokuto clan. Present. Hyuga Hiyashi of Hyuga clan. Present. Inazuka Sume of the Inazuka clan. Present. Kohaku Yoshihito of the Kohaku clan. Present. Nara Shikaku of the Nara clan. Troublesome. Tsunade rolled her eyes. A few chuckles went around the room. Naras and their lazy attitude. Moving on. Sarutobi Asuma of the Sarutobi clan? Present and accounted for. Senju Tsunade of the Senju clan, present. Shimura Miyoko of the Shimura clan, present. Lady Hokage. Uchiha Fugaku of the Uchiha clan, present. Uzumaki Kushina of the Uzumaki clan? Present cousin. Don't do that again, she says. Yamanaka Inoichi of the Yamanaka clan, present. Lady Hokage. She nodded. She called out to a few civilian groups as well as the old geezers that were with her, so now that everyone was accounted for, -1. Today we have witnessed a spectacular display of a light show this afternoon. We don't know why it came here, neither do we know if this came from an enemy village. Could this mean that we might be going to war with the unknown? No, we will not go to war with anyone until we have further evidence that this is not a threat to us, but should it be one, I want all clan heads as well as shinobi to be on high alert. She said, just because we are in the middle of peaceful times that doesn't mean we should let our guard down. Most agreed. Now in other news, since we are all here, I would like to take time to discuss how repairs are going and possibly sending aid to Kirigakure for upcoming civil war that may be unavoidable. We were in talks for over a year now, however the situation in Hidden Mist Village is intensifying, so the person who wanted the aid was Mei Terumi. Danzo I narrowed sending aid to a foreign nation? The village was the top priority, not some child coming here to request help. If they were to go back to full strength they needed all hands on deck. However, he let this play out to see the reaction. Some of the villagers and other clan head grimace. After 3 years the attack of the Nine Tails was still fresh in everyone's mind. However, the mother of that monstrosity was in the room. It was no secret about the wrath of the red hot-blooded habanero was legendary even in her youth. Wisely no one spoke. Though one brave soul who was a civilian did. Lady Tsunade-sama, we are in no position in helping anyone else. The attack of the Nine Tails along with the so-called Leviathan has left a very bitter taste in our mouths, and we have suffered numerous losses thanks to that demon brat. The air temperature dropped several degrees, causing everyone to sweat. Even the man was too afraid to look, yet he did instantly regret it. He swallowed dryly. Should have kept your mouth shut. Sume sang. My son is not the fox reincarnated, Kushina growled, she unclenching her fist on her knees. Do you not have faith that the seal wooder will hold that fox at bay? You are looking at Konoha's number seal master, not to mention the fourth Hokage, who was a very close friend of mine, is another seal master, TT Ibane. And let's forget about that pervert Jiraiya. With all due respect Uzumaki-san, he continued, you should have finished him off when you had the clang boink pow. The man was sent flying out of the council room like a shooting star passing through the night. Kushina had a very dark shadow on her face. Her hair wild untamed. She gritted her teeth. She whipped around glaring at everyone to say something about her son. Anyone else wants to join him? Sagely, no more comments were made. Moving on, Tsunade let her eyes roam around the room. Over the year a young hidden mist kunoichi came here to the village asking for assistance. Though I know it's a long shot, I would like to hear opinions on what is the best course to take. It was Fugaku who spoke. While I must agree on what the idiot said, we cannot focus on helping other nations with their problems, considering the fact we have our own to deal with. Mummers of agreement echoed the room. Doing so will not only hinder progress in reconstruction to regain our stability, we are also, as you say, recovering from the Nine Tails attack. Need I remind you about the Leviathan? There was a slight pause. Anyone heard about a mysterious dark charcoal beast that fought the fox. No one knows what has happened to it save for a certain clan and 2 dead Hokages and certain Anbu. People assumed it was a summons, so they figured it disappeared after. I agree with Fugaku. Hiyashi spoke, we are too thinned on our resources. The only reason why this Mei person would come seeking help is because of bloodline purges that are happening other there in the Hidden Mist Village. The clan heads shuddered. They couldn't imagine if Konoha started doing something like that. The doors opened, all eyes turned to see a man with air-defying silver hair, with a mask on, reading an orange book. Most of the women were glaring daggers at him, yet he ignored them. Tsunade made a mental note to pummel Jiraiya for writing such garbage. How was it that he was a Sanin again? Hitaki, you're late, an hour late. Sorry, got lost on the road of life, he said casually. Had to help an old lady with her groceries, then a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take a long way around. The blonde was going to give this man an earful when this meeting is done. She was starting to think of taking him off Anbu. Right in the middle of all this a high-pitched whine is heard, shaking the building slightly. Nobody moved. Tsunade was already having a headache. Knew today was going to be a long one. One Anbu appears in a puff of smoke whispering into her ear. Her brows furrowed, she looked at Kunoichi in disbelief. A black metal flying machine is outside Uzumaki residence. Shizune had the misfortune to babysit not one but two Gakis, yet she was not without help. Makoto volunteered to watch over both her son Sasuke and godson Naruto since she wanted to visit her best friend. Well, since Tsunade called the meeting, she figured she could stay while she got back. To which the younger girl was eternally grateful. The boys proved quite a handful when they were together, running around the yard playing tag or trying to, secretly, steal cookies, to which the raven-haired teen caught them. They squealed in delight whenever she tried to chase after them. Shizune would be lying if she said she wasn't enjoying it, despite being a bit peeved since eating sweets would spoil dinner. Unfortunately, Shizune was too late as they ate the whole container of chocolate chip. She gave them a scolding after. Makoto giggled as she saw them. Shizune gave in to the cutest puppy dog eyes she ever seen. Kawaii. They're so cute. She hugged them super tightly. How can she stay mad at you too? At this rate, I'll suffocate before I become an adult. Let go, woman. Makoto to the rescue. Dinner is ready. After a satisfying meal, Sasuke and Naruto were starting to get sleepy, though in this case, it was strange to see the blonde was usually hyperactive. Not wanting to be an inconsiderate guest, Makoto helped with the dishes. She looked back. What she saw brought a smile to her face. Both children asleep, heads touching as they are leaned up against each other as if they were supporting each other. Though if you looked closer, Sasuke was shifting uncomfortably. Within the mind he dreamed. A dream is a succession of images, ideas, emotions, and sensations that usually occur involuntarily in the mind during certain stages of sleep. The content and purpose of dreams are not fully understood, although they have been a topic of scientific, philosophical, and religious interest throughout recorded history. In this particular sleep a storm was brewing. Black clouds sprawl across the sky, billowing in from the west. Their brassy glare drains the color from houses and trees and burnished cars in driveways, leaving neighborhoods tinted bronze in the faltering light. The air grows heavy and the humidity presses down, suffocating. The scent of rain is dark and heady. A stillness falls over the street, and in the silence comes a low crackle of thunder, rolling across rooftops to the pattering of tiny raindrops. For a moment, everything stops. Even the wind holds its breath. A streak of hot silver splits the sky, and the downpour begins. Kei frantically searches for a safe haven from the storm. If it was one thing he hated was being outside in a thunderstorm. The boom rolled across the neighborhood, announcing the start of what the brooding cloud layer had promised. The boughs of the trees swayed in the strengthening gust, surrendering their fall leaves without a fight. Try as he might, he couldn't get the door to open. He begins to pound the door with his foot, to get to safety, still it would not open. Another boom. Only this time the earth shook. He paused. Again the earth shook. Kei's heart began to speed up, his breathing quickened, the boom becoming more frequent. Suddenly a rush of water wet his feet. Regrettably, he turns around to be faced with a 100-foot-tall wave. It stared menacingly at before it swallowed him and the neighborhood. Yet he was still. The murky water that consumed him began to turn dark. There was no more thunder, no more rain, only water that seemed to never end. He could breathe underneath the deep. The next thing he knew, he saw it, a blue light in the distance slowly making his way towards him. As the light grew closer, his curiosity grew in wonder. The light stopped and the dream flashed again. This time he was face to face with reptile skin. His eyes travel the hind upwards. Soon, he gazes upon a face shaped very squarely, while the neck is broad and possesses gills on its sides. From the features of this creature, it is snarling rapidly at him. Its chest puffs low, grumbling turns into a skur rreonnnnnnnnkkkkkk. The earth-shattering roar leads to Kei to be screaming at the top of his lungs, as the large reptile jaw descends upon him. Yet as everything turns to pitch black he hears, "Release me." While the raven's-haired anomaly was suffering from a nightmare, the Whisker Boy awoke slightly dazed from the punch to the face he received from his raven-haired friend, and if you looked even closer you could see a toad cross with cat eyes making a cross, turning back to normal blue before his eyes closed, going back to sleep. Arc 1. Childhood Chapter 9. Foreign. The next day. Everything was fuzzy, spinning out of control as if the whole world was shaking apart. He felt his head was going to explode any minute now. The pressure was not letting up. The young lad wails in pain. It was too much, then suddenly he is jerked awake. His head collides with something hard. Ow! His eyes popped open as he clutches his head in pain, with tears nearly coming out of them. He saw a blurry figure, blinking away the tears. He momentarily forgot about it when he saw a familiar redhead. Naruto, your head thicker than a log. There stood before him his own mother, with slender, but feminine build, fair skin, violet eyes, and the common Uzumaki red hair. Her round face, which, with her red hair naturally framing both sides of her face, giving her the resemblance of a tomato. He couldn't take it anymore. He may have known her briefly, but he always remembered her sweet gentle smile, that is, whenever she was not angry. Holding her head, Kushina gazed at her son. It was as if he saw a ghost. Without warning, the little blonde flashed in front of her, knocking her down to the floor. He began to weep, to hug her tightly as his tiny little body shook. Disturbed, quickly the red-haired woman gripped her son tightly, cooing him, rubbing his back in small circles. It's okay, it's okay. It was just a nightmare, sweetie. Shush, shush. The whimpering died down, yet he still held on firmly, clutching her tightly. What has gotten into him? He never hugged me this tightly before. Naruto, was it a bad dream? Came the reply. I really missed you, Mom. They held each other for another moment. Naruto leans back with his signature foxy grin. Ka-san. She gazed into his blue eyes. They reminded her so much of her husband. She swore that her little Naruto was nothing more than carbon copy her late husband. However, there were some features that were there that he resembled a little bit her. She could only pray that he doesn't get any of her verbal tics whenever he gets excited. A small growl was heard. She giggled. It looks like that someone is hungry. Why don't we go get some ramen at Ichiraku? Alright. Let go TT Ibeo. A spotlight shines over Kushina as she is in the corner with her knees to her chest. I have spoken too soon. Naruto's sweat dropped. Was this how it was like to have a mother or a guardian? Do they usually get depressed like this quickly? The thought of having ramen with his mother. He hadn't had ramen in a long time, not with all the war that was going on between the allied shinobi forces against Madara, and fighting the Akatsuki before that. Besides, it will be a great opportunity to get to know your own mother. He wasn't given a second chance like the Teme. Still, he was sure that this time around he was going to do everything in his power to protect his precious people. Hagoromo Ojisan didn't give him another chance for nothing. He was on a mission, and by Kami, he was going to do it. Speaking of the Teme who is not his Teme, he wondered if Kei was doing alright. He'll catch up with him later hopefully, but right now a trip to the ramen stand sounded swell. It was nostalgic to say the least. Walking through the village brought back many memories, the good, the bad and the ugly. He remembers the horrible feeling whenever the older generation would look down upon him as if he was the fox. He remembers all the beatings he got, the bruises, the lonely nights where he would cry himself to sleep. He stared at the villagers. He could see the cold hatred that was in their eyes. He wasn't the one praised for stopping pain after he demolished the village. No, to them he was nothing more than demon brat. Though good memories were also here as well, making friends when he was made a genin, put on the same team as Sakura and Sasuke Teme. Teaching Konohamaru the Rasengan, or the very first jutsu he taught him, Oiroku no Jutsu. Maybe this time around he'll make sure teach the brat something else. He shuddered. Sakura was the second coming of Tsunade Bachin. It was scary. He had enough bruises from the girl as is. He didn't need to go through that again. Speaking which, Sakura, he thought sadly, for the first time in his life Naruto truly felt alone. There were so many familiar faces, but yet he couldn't speak to them as he would. He knew too much about them, yet he was going to be a stranger to them. However, it wasn't just Sakura, it was also Kakashi-sensei, Sai, Ino, Kiba, Shino, Choji, Shikamaru, Tenten, Bushy Brow, Neji, Hinata, and Pervy Sage. Neji. Flashbacks of Neji's fallen body during the war stabbed Naruto in the chest. He didn't want to see his friend die like that again. Never would he let the Hyuga die just because of some ridiculous ideology. Obito, despite being apparently misguided, was still a dangerous man who wanted to cast them all into an eternal genjutsu. Uchiha Madara was still a threat, and would always be if Kabuto proceeded once more with the Edo Tensei technique, and everything would lead them back to Kagaya once more. Hinata was another one. She confessed that she loved him during the pain attack. Now she was back to her old shy habits, or rather he was back to a point in time where she was still young like his age, meaning he was going to have to deal with her shyness later on. Jiraiya's death hit him the hardest. He was close to him. He was like the father he never had until he met his real father when the Nine Tails went on a rampage and he nearly let the darn fox out. He had to make sure that pervy Sage didn't go to the Hidden Rain village by himself or at least try to get see Nagato again. Speaking of Kurama, he wasn't sure if he made with him or if he has to deal with his stubborn attitude again. This was going to be harder than he thought. He already knew that the third Hokage was dead. It pained him really. He was like a grandfather to him and even took the time out his busy schedule to make time for him even on his birthday. Heck, he knew how to survive in the wild thanks to him. He knew had a lot of ground to cover. He had to get back to his psychical condition and with Sasuke or rather K. This was going to be a nightmare. And him having the knowledge of what was coming in the future, there was no way they could lose, right? "We're here," Kushina sang, breaking Naruto out of his thoughts. "Hey Tucci-san, 2 bowls of miso ramen." "Kushina, how's my #1 customer doing?" An elderly man around his 40s smiled. A big wave of nostalgia hit Naruto. Coming here just for food because the villagers' hatred towards the furball sealed within him. If weren't for them he would still be eating out of a garbage can. Literally, he has eaten out of the garbage made him sick. Nonetheless, it was to stop the painful sensation of hunger. "Doing great." She sat down on the stool then quickly picked up her son sitting him on his lap. "Oh ho. Is that little Naruto?" "Yup. Say hello honey." Naruto sheepishly waves at the older man, giving him a small hello. Yes, indeed this was very nostalgic. However, this wasn't the first time he has met the man nor his daughter. "Ah, look at little Naruto, he is getting bigger by the day." A voice squeals. A slender girl about 7 years of age with semi-long, dark brown hair and large black eyes, plus fair skin comes out from the kitchen. She wears a dirtied white robe with the sleeves folded, a sort of dark blue apron with ribbon ties at the top and a bright white bandana. "You're getting big yourself, Ayame-chan. You were little when I last saw you. My goodness, how time flies." The man behind the counter agreed. "Yeah, got to treasure them while they're still young. Life is too short, even more especially for the job you did before. Not too many people can say they are lucky to have lived long enough to start a family." The 2 plates arrived. The sparkle in Kushina's eyes brightened as she viewed the dish. "Naruto, get ready to taste a piece of heaven." The young boy didn't need to be told twice as mother and son devoured their dish. Maybe adding this Godzilla was a good idea, though he wondered how the new Sasuke was doing. He last saw him meeting their future teammate and Tenten, after the whole light fiasco that is. Then after that Hagamoro Ojisan sent him back with little information only to make sure that he along with his new partner were able to succeed in making sure that the sage's mother is never to be released. For now, he would enjoy this moment with just stuffing his face with ramen, enjoying this meal with his mother. The Argo just ran out of fuel. They landed at least 2 miles away from the village on a flat plain clearing big enough to land the aircraft, which was very fortunate for them, considering that a dense forest wasn't making it any easier for them to land. While they flew overhead, they managed to survey the area using radars. Every picture they took showed a different area of the location they flew over. Even their infrared cameras showed hundreds if not thousands of people scattered or gathered into some way or form inside the village. Rubbing the dryness from his eyes, Rick went over the data one last time, making sure that this wasn't a hoax. The noise that they gathered was definitely Japanese. Whatever that light did, they somehow managed to make to the Asian country, maybe ancient Japan? This is nuts. He grabbed his cup of coffee. He couldn't believe it was time travel possible. Then again, look no further to the box that claimed to be from the future, which strangely disappeared on them. "Have you found anything new, Rick?" Ishiro walked over. He had a very tired expression on his face. "Anything at all to tell us where we are?" "You want the truth," he replied. "I have no freaking idea where or when we are. So far the only clue that we managed to salvage is that the natives speak Japanese, which is right up your alley." The elder man nodded. It was strange to hear this. How could they have gone back in time? Were they in feudal times? And check this out. Rick then clicks on 2 different images on the computer. "You see this one particular kid in this setting. Now let's compare the 2 pictures." Ishiro's eyes widen as the white-haired man continued. "One is brighter than the rest of them. Not only that, look at the body temperature on this kid. He's like a mini-star. How is that even possible?" "You got me." Colonel Foster enters the fray with her voice over the speaker. "I want all personnel on the bridge immediately." Murmurs went around as every staff available gathered on the bridge. Some doubted they were in the time of ancient Japan, yet the sense of foreboding was there. They couldn't place it, but here they were stuck in a place with no way to communicate with the main base. Man, can you believe this? One said. No, not really, a second replied. What do you think is going to happen now? Another said. Don't know. I didn't sign up to be a monster hunter. I came here to whip my life into shape. Foster came from around the corner. All right, quiet down. The chatting continues. Silence. The room began to quiet down. She glared at the people, daring anyone to say a word. Now, let debriefing begin. A hologram is projected in front of them. Exactly 0800 hours yesterday morning we encountered an unusual phenomenon. This mysterious light, aka dancing sun, was right in front of us after we managed to get off one of our bases in the Antarctic post, which contained subject Monster Zero. She pauses, letting the information sink in. There is no doubt in my mind that with the release of Monster Zero, that it is causing havoc on our native soil where our brothers and sisters are fighting the battle of their lives. We don't know where we are, nor do we know if the natives are friendly or not. Which is why we are going to be doing a recon mission, so everyone will be in groups of 3. Eyes went all over the place. Foreign land with the unknown people, not sure how to get back to HQ with all the strangeness occurring. Foster then points to the board. We'll set up a perimeter around the Argos, setting up landmines after we gather intel. Make that there will be only one way to get, and remember to post a flag to make you don't get caught up in the explosion. We already lost brave men and women to Monster X. I don't need any more causalities. Ma'am, a soldier raised his finger. What would happen if we encounter any of the natives? Capture or detain? What type of arsenal will we be using in terms of bullets wise? Rubber ones. She replied without missing a beat. Like I said, I don't need any more casualty. Get ready to disembark in an hour. Dismissed. Ichiro stroked his chin. Perhaps he should journey with one of the teams, and if the people of the land did, in fact, speak Japanese, he would go with them. The Hokage Tower puzzlement was etched in the face of the legendary sucker. She saw the photos nonetheless. She didn't want to believe it. It was unusual, to say the least. She took note that it was taken in the early morning as Anbu Ops trailed it down. Before her on the desk was a dozen photos showing different angles of black mysterious UFO. She palms her face, leans back in her chair, gazing at the ceiling. I'm going to get gray hairs by the time my second year as Hokage comes around. She pours the bottle of sake in her cup. This day just keeps getting weirder and weirder. I don't remember anything exciting happening beside the Second Shinobi War and Third. Placing the drink to her lips, she gulped it down in a swoop. She slams the cup down while hollering, Anbu. Within seconds 24 Anbu appeared before, especially one with hair-defying quality. She eyed each of them. This is sulfur monosulfide class mission. I want only you gather information about this UFO, capture anything that moves, and should they be hostile, kill on sight. Do I make myself clear? Hi. You are dismissed. Expect for you, Inu. Tsunade blinked at him as the others disappeared. You can drop the mask, Hitaki. He complied. Now that was out of the way, she could look him in the eye when she said this. I taking you off, Anbu. Nani? She held up her hand. I know you are loyal to your job, Hitaki-san, but I feel you are pushing yourself too hard in completing these mission. Plus this is payback for being late to the meeting I called, but you don't need to know that. He was silent, throwing up his uncaring look towards her, though in the inside he was dreading what was to become of him if. No, not if. When he was off the roster, what will he do? Well, he guesses he could read up upon his Icha. I'm assigning you to be a Jonin instructor. The blonde looked at him. To the untrained eye he gave away nothing, yet his eye narrowed slightly. No, not going to happen. He replied. You don't have a choice. She snapped. I am your Hokage. You'll do as I say when I say it, so no, you don't have a say in the matter. I also expect you to be on time for whatever event that is presented, whether it be meetings or training your new genin team. I will not tolerate your tardiness. If I find out that are late to even one, I guarantee I'll have Kushina to find you to rip your precious little books apart. He froze rigidly. She's bluffing. She has got to be bluffing. One blink of the visible eye and he saw her feature with a smug smile plastered on her face. Nope, she wasn't bluffing, just to be safe. You're bluffing, try me. At the Uchiha compound, Makoto held a sleeping Sasuke to her chest. He never gotten much sleep. He had awoken from his slumber screaming, pale, cold sweat, that she swore that her little child was going to have a panic attack. That damn spiked good-for-nothing piece of garbage of a Biju. She gritted her teeth. She cursed herself for allowing Hiruzen and that blonde-haired of so-called friend Minato for talking her into this arrangement. How could she be so naive? How many more of these accursed beasts are there? How could she go against her logic? Then again, could she really allow more devastation to be upon her native soil? She regretted the fact she did it, something that she couldn't bear another child to do. Technically speaking, she shouldn't even be alive. Still here she is pondering over the question. Why? Why did she allow herself to damn her own child to carry a weight that no one else could or won't carry? It's already bad enough that the entire clan was in speculation due to that horrid fox. How much more reason could she give the people of the Leaf to hate her clan? Stupid, stupid, stupid. Sasuke squirmed again, giving a soft whine. The Uchiha matriarch squeezed tightly. He relaxed. She sighed again. She didn't sleep last night without Sasuke screaming in terror. Itachi tried to comfort him to no avail. Fugaku even tried using his own evolved form of Sharingan, saying he will not allow any weakness in the family. When he did see inside of Sasuke, he was immediately cast out the moment he confronted the beast. Her own husband was shaking, trembling in fear. Nothing ever frightened almost. Never frightened him, he even said it himself. Makoto, I'm going to apologize to you right now. I'm going to swallow my pride and say this: I don't care if he continues to scream all night long, but there is no way in this earth that I'm going back in there to that forsaken ocean. That thing is untamable. Coward. The coward was afraid of the beast that was sealed within her son. Apparently, the warmth of her body while placing Sasuke to her chest to her heartbeat was enough to soothe. She was very tired, her eyes were heavy from all of the squirmings and hitting. Sasuke managed to nail her in the cheek, resulting in a reddened mark of an imprint of his tiny fist. She shuddered. That was stingy at best yet painful at worst. I hate to see how much strength he is going to have when he is older. She lamented. Was this the secondary effect of the beast? I bet Tsunade wasn't this strong as a baby, leaving marks all over her parents. What I am going to do? For the first time, Uchiha Makoto was at a loss. She had no experience in having to deal with this type of situation, neither had she foresaw her second son carry this burden. Maybe she could talk to Kushina. After all, it was no secret that she once held the Kyuubi inside. She confided to her that she was the fox's next host after her great-great-grandmother Uzumaki Mito, and the raven-haired beauty kept it a secret for a long time, not even telling her parents for fear that they would prevent her from seeing her redhead friend. Though the question was raised, would her friend keep her secret or would she go directly to the Hokage? Kushina was terrible at keeping secrets. Look no further than her being the host of said fox. Her blood ran ice cold. If she went to Lady Tsunade, then she will go the council members, which will lead even more tension as is between the clan and villagers, which in turn will have that old warhawk Danzo to further reason to alienate them from the villagers even though they were Konoha's military police force. How was it that the third Hokage allowed him free reign again? Stop. Makoto took a deep breath. She was overthinking this. Kushina would never betray her trust like that. They have been friends ever since they've been put on the same team together with Mebuki, even if their relationship was a bit strained. Why couldn't Hyuga Hitomi be on their team 11 years ago? Ka-san? She looked up to find her eldest son worried about her standing at the frame of the door. She's gotten a bit rusty ever since she retired from the Leaf Forces, or was because of the damned Biju that made her feel like this. Itachi-kun, I didn't hear you come in. How was school? It was well. The young boy looked at his tired mother. I graduated early, so I decided to come by to check on you. I'll be assigned a team at the end of the week. Uchiha Itachi loved his little brother. The moment Sasuke was born, he already had an attachment to him. It was as if Itachi wanted to bind Sasuke to him and protect him forever, without fail. But he also wanted to let him go on his own for the sake of his little brother's personal freedom and independence. It was a mixed, foreign feeling, something which Itachi had to get accustomed to. Maybe this is what it's like to be an older brother, Itachi had thought. It felt different, though, but it was not unwelcoming. What Itachi noticed the most about Sasuke, though, when he was already a few months old, was the way he always stared at him. That alone should not pose as something unusual, but it was the gazes that emitted curiosity or anything akin or similar to the sort. No, baby Sasuke's gaze was more solemn than what normal babies were capable of. Solemn, and with a hint of restrained, unbridled happiness. It was definitely unusual. The raven-haired woman nodded. That's good, though I wish you wouldn't throw away your childhood so quickly, Itachi. You're far too young to be a ninja with a full life ahead of himself. The eldest said nothing. He sat next to her. Gazing at his younger sibling, he gingerly passed a hand through his hair. It pained him that he could nothing to put the beast in its place. He knew this was Sasuke's burden to carry. By whose help was he going to turn to? Do you think that there are more? He questioned. The thought of more of this beast out in the wild sent a shiver down their spines. Could there be a remnant of the Leviathans out there, the one sealed? Could it have been the father of many more? To be honest, I truly don't want to know. Maybe paying her friend a visit again would do her some good. After all, it's not every day an Uchiha is a Jinchuriki, so in the meantime she'll try to banish the thoughts of dread. A small yawn escaped Sasuke as he stirred. His eyes slowly blinked to an unfamiliar setting. He panics a moment before calming down to find Itachi staring back him smiling. These are some comfortable pillows. Wait a second. Leaning back as far as he could, he grabbed the so-called pillows, his hand press on the matriarch chest. Squishy. Sasuke was redder than a tomato, if that was even possible. Itachi snickered as their mother deadpanned. Then again, he was child, didn't know anything about the human anatomy yet. Sasuke, you little pervert. Pervert? I'm the pervert. Itachi, you have no idea who you are dealing with. Innocently as he could. What's a pervert? A person who does certain things wrong to another person. Makoto said she hoped that she wouldn't have to do the talk until his preteen years or when he had his own girlfriend. It was too awkward just talking about it to a 3-year-old. I'll tell you more when you're older. Okay. Lady, I'm over 20 plus years old. If you think I don't know, you got another thing coming. A mental evil grin smile. Well, no sense in beating around the bush. Let's make this even more awkward. That's right, Sasuke, only big boys like myself would know. Itachi wiggled his finger in tut-tut motion. Excuse me, young man. What's sex? That question was so out of the blue that both raven-haired Uchihas paled as they both whipped their head to the young boy. Of all the things Sasuke had to say, or rather ask, to know about sex. Oh, dear mercy. This was going to get funky, and how were you supposed to explain it for a toddler to understand? Achievement unlocked. Awkwardness, take that, you jerk. Chapter 10. Knowing the Unknown Part 19. Squadrons of 3-man cell armed with state-of-the-art military weapons, gadgets and sonar slowly trend in the dense forest. With eyes peeled to their surroundings, they make sure to cover each other as they spread out evenly to better their chances of not being flanked. It was a cool afternoon. The sun was beginning to show signs of an orange hue, meaning that night would be soon approaching. With them was Ishiro Serizawa as translator, hoping that with a person speaking Japanese it could ease the tension between both parties. Everyone was on edge. There was something in the air that didn't sit right with them, and even their sonars picked up movements. Sometimes they ran into wildlife of the forest, some bears, some mountain lions and insects, both small and large in stature. They've been scouting for 3 hours, finding more trees that never seem to end. It's been a long, weird day. First Monster Zero is loosed. Then a shining light transport them to a different location with no way to get back home. Now they're in some sort of forest which has the strangest of creatures the size of a pony. Did I forget to mention that it nearly killed them? Keyword. Nearly. A shadow flew above them. One Solider looks up. His eyes narrowed. It was quiet. Too quiet. That's when it hits him. Yo, Chief. A fist in the air. The company stops moving. Chief Warrant Officer Barnes turns around to face his subordinate. What? There is something weird going on here. It is way too quiet for normal forest activity to be not lively. The man said, it's just like in a horror movie. Something bad is going to happen. Barnes sighed, pinches the bridge of his eyes. Solider, do you hear that? I don't hear anything, sir. So in essence, what you're saying is that it's quiet, too quiet. Yes, but I was hoping to sidestep the cliché there. Points for concision though. I hate to disturb. No, wait, I love it. But anyway, if you know we're diving headfirst into the land of clichés, you know what comes up, don't you? Listen, Chief, I just got a bad feeling is all. The man replied. Hey Barnes. First Lieutenant Griffin yelled. She held her infrared scope. Look alive, we got incoming, unknown coming, through the trees. Check your scopes. Weapons hot, ready to go. The small squadron point out their guns to nearby trees, making sure that nothing is out of the ordinary. A few minutes of waiting with sweat dripping down, they ease for a moment, aware that they were being watched, slowly make progress again. Anbu watched closely as the unknown strangers continued to travel towards their village. They knew their orders, so with hand signals they began to formulate a plan. With one of them on the ground, peeking behind from a large pine tree cloaked in a chameleon jutsu, the Anbu Fukuro unsheathes a kunai ready to attack. Only slight problem, she steps on a twig alerting the troop. Quickly she jumps out to rush them and one fires. Bang, she drops to the floor painfully unconscious, flying towards their feet in a heap. Eyes widen, one of them being a medical tends to the fallen masked individual. When the mask is removed, it is revealed to be a young woman around her early 20s, late teen years with purple hair. Is it normal for young Japanese girls to dye their hair? Barnes turned to the scientist on the team. My culture sense is a bit dull, but I don't think that's normal. No, Ishiro stated. Our culture back in the day as of now doesn't permit anyone to do so. It would be bring shame to the family. However, if you want to know about cartoon or anime, then yes, you would find them there. The medic checked her pulse. She breathing, that a good thing. The tranquilizer was pulled out of her chest. It was a sleeper agent. The boss decided it would be safe to use tranquilizers or rubber bullets. She be out like a light. SSSSSSSSSSS. Anyone else hear that? The sizzling sound continued until they realized. Grenade. The troop scatters quickly as the explosion rocks them, throwing them off balance. Even Ishiro is thrown off balance from the blast as he tries to move out of harm's way. Two soldiers quickly come to his side with rifles, frantically searching for any signs of the enemy. Duck and cover. The remaining Anbu studied the unknown entities briefly, analyzing the situation. These people in their weird armor. They spoke a whole new long foreign to their own, which would later prove disastrous if they couldn't understand their battle tactics. Who were these people and how did they get here? What were they looking for? Too many questions arose. Now was not the time for question. If they proved hostile, then by Lady Hokage's orders they needed to be killed. They took immediate action as they saw one of their own go down with heavy thud. That's when the plan was set into motion. Kill them. If they would have paused for a moment, the Anbu would have noticed that a medical soldier was checking the down shinobi. Chaos ensued as they quickly tried to overwhelm the strangers. From the Argo they could hear the sound of fighting and gunfire happening. Dr. Chen nervously bit her nails. She saw the impossible happen, humans firing elements from making hand signs. The elements at their command, even Colonel Foster was lost amongst others. What the heck? She stared appalled. Is that even normal? No, Chen said. Her mouth began to move, yet the words were stuck in her throat. Even only for a moment, she began to analyze the situation, beginning with the light. When that light hit us, we might have entered in an alternate dimension. So basically Star Trek. In a sense, you see, the science community have theory. A multiverse, also known as a maniverse, megaverse, metaverse, omniverse, or meta-universe, a hypothetical group of multiple universes. Together, these universes comprise everything that exists. The entirety of space, time, matter, energy, and the physical laws and constants that describe them. The different universes within the multiverse are called, and you probably heard them before, parallel universes, other universes, alternate universes, or alterverses. She paused to let the information sink in. Humans may be different from what we are as to. As I can sum it up, different things will happen. So what you are saying, we might have landed in a universe where people are running around juiced up with superpowers. More or less. We're taking heavy fire. The voice of Barnes screamed over the mic. Foster with determination over the mic. Assault team, sniper team, make haste, we got friendlies out there. Go out on the double move. Move, watch out for the mines too. Scrambling, more military personnel got their equipment, headed it out onto motorcycles or the Polaris MV-850 terrain armor. The ramp opened as 20 squads of finest personnel quickly descended down the ramp into the one area opening they were told they were allowed to go. It took the same time the recon team took to insert the mines spaced out in case something happened. It was a good thing that forest, while dense, was spaced out in a way for the vehicles to maneuver. USA military were prepared for anything, but their training would not prepare them for the amount of ninjas that they would have to fight. In Konoha playground, Itachi was taking his shift to watch over his younger brother before he had to go on a mission the next morning with his team. It was rare for him to even take Sasuke to the park, yet despite the fact that he was training hard, it was one of those rare moments. He was with Shizune, who was looking over Naruto at the same time. Coincidentally, whenever Sasuke was at the park, Naruto would follow, or vice versa. The two seemed to get along just fine, it seemed, as they played in the sandbox together. It didn't take a genius to see that other parents' distaste, mistrust for both Uchiha and Jinchuriki. Neither did it stop the whispers, murmurs, or glares towards them. Itachi sighed. You two, huh? Hi. Shizune was a young girl who didn't particularly hate anyone, however the village's idiots couldn't decipher a scroll or a kunai. They all heard what happened to the man at the meeting. He was found unconscious with multiple fractures in certain areas such as ribs, arms and legs with some minor internal bleeding. They knew that if Naruto was with the Senju apprentice they would be in for a rough time with Lady Hokage, whom come to like the jailer and was under her protection. However, no one dared to open their mouths whenever the red-hot habanero, so they decided a different tactic: have their children stay clear of him. The Uchihas were much different. Their situation was due to the fact of history, especially the one pertaining one Uchiha Madara who betrayed the village. Because of this they were under heavy scrutiny from the elders and those who lived during the time of Hashirama. Though the clan was grateful that at least one Senju wanted peace between them, unlike his brother who hated them with a passion. Hiruzen was okay, but his motives were questionable, due allowing his friend Danzo misdeeds to slip, in other words, turn a blind eye. Oh, how the clan hated that man with a passion as well. The old war hawk couldn't leave them be. He nearly froze their accounts, has an unhealthy interest with the Sharingan which unnerved the clan head, blames them for the attack of the Nine Tails attack even though they have no proof. If Minato didn't die maybe in the attack, maybe things would be smoother. However, the Namikaze reign was short-lived. Now they have a new Senju in office in which they are watching carefully. Negotiation are still in the talks, to see the best way to handle tension between the clan and village. Never easy is it, Uchiha-san. Itachi, Kato-chan. Fine. Then call me Shizune if we are going to drop the formalities, she said with a slight smile. Itachi smirked lightly. Do you ever think that these days have been unusual? With what we had to go through in the past 3 years, I say something is bound to happen, though I am not sure what that is. While the two conversed, 2 other people began to make plans of their own, though they had to make sure that they were playing with the sand or else it would be suspicious. Finally, I can talk normally, Kei says, pounding a side of bucket-shaped dome. So are you sure that you are the other Naruto and not one I had to declare my best friend? A tick mark appears on his head, but he counts to 3 before exhaling for the 4th time of the same question, of I am. Why else would I be talking like this? Datbeo. Kei whacks him on the head lightly. Keep your voice down, he hissed. The blonde-haired rubbed his head, glaring at the anomaly. He gave a small tisk. I can see why you chose the Teme. Kei stopped his patting of the sand. Oh? Naruto stood up, dusting himself off. You can be one if you tried. Now it was Kei who twitched. Well, excuse me, Mr. Talk no Jutsu. I am not like that at all. You don't know me to judge. And you do? More or less, yes. Sasuke retorted, standing up. Let's go to the swings. As they left, other children eagerly took over the box. Sasuke looked at the blonde, shaking his head. The young Uzumaki understood what he was saying. The children stood far away from them, and it didn't take Nara to notice the tension within the adults. As they progressed to the swings, it hit the young anomaly hard, as he remembers his own childhood, the bullies that taunted him. He had little to no friends when he was elementary school. When you are young you don't know why things the way that they are. The bullying continued when you are naive. Many manipulation happen, especially when you think you are having fun. Sasuke shuddered violently. The host of the Nine Tails noticed this. You okay? Onyx's eyes met briefly with determined blue ones. The raven-haired child waved him off, putting on a brief smirk. Naruto knew that smirk yet didn't press. Yano, you maybe not be the Teme, but I can tell that you have potential to be like him. Both boys sat on the wooden stool that was held by the rope. I'll try to not remind you of your lover. Naruto gawked, nearly fell off the swing. Oi. Sasuke laughed. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. A few chuckles in Naruto started to do the same. In all seriousness, why did you spend so much time chasing after this one dude? Naruto gazes towards the horizon. Because I saw him as my rival at first, then my friend, and finally my brother. He was orphaned like I was, and we understood each other's pain. Saved my life during both Hiku and Gaara fight. Kei could see the tears in eyes as he listened on. Teme meant a lot, so the bonds that we formed I want to protect, even though he wants to break them. Kei nodded his head. I understand. They were silent. Th2 swung lightly, not sure how to make more conversation. A thought then came to Sasuke. When is Hinata's birthday? The light bulb went off in the blonde's head. Oh, snap. Meanwhile, back in the forest, US troops from ducking for cover are tired, low on ammo, suffering a few casualties. Backup was coming ETA. 5 minutes, they had to hold on a little while longer. Ishiro was surrounded in a tight circle. They would not move a foot. They discovered that they were aiming for him to possibly take him as a hostage or worse. These unknown entities were fast-doing techniques that were only seen in comic books. Barnes gritted his teeth. He looked over to his lieutenant. She was angry, bruised, burnt and weary. This fighting was taking its toll. That didn't mean the other side was fine either. Anbu were panting. Theseus people were clever, using flashes to blind them before they could do anything, even a jutsu. One Anbu looked over his comrades. Some were wounded by round objects that pierced the skin. A few comrades were dead. Now everyone was hiding from each other. Though they had one advantage over the strange people, they turn invisible with the chameleon jutsu. Try to take them down one by one. With hands he began to communicate with the stronger Anbu who had minimal bruises. The few Anbu were ready to mobilize, only to pause to hear the sound of angry beast coming their way. VRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRR for backup in the middle of the chaos. More of the uniformed people to aid their comrades, riding vehicles they've never seen before. We have to finish them off now. Hi, too late. The sound was around them. The vehicles along with the riders circled them. 5 of them Fukuro analyzed. She knew this was only the beginning of the battle, yet one of them had to report to Lady Hokage. Using hand signals she motioned to Tora leave as they held off the intruders. The young Anbu was hesitant but complied. He quickly mated to trees with a few in pursuit. We die fighting attack. The battle commenced, yet again. We need to work on our chakra, try to get them up as soon as possible. Naruto concludes they spent the last 6 minutes trying to figure what events are fresh in their minds. Naruto, you do realize that we are only 3 years old, Kei said with a comical deadpan expression. How do you expect us too much or even try to begin to train at an age with chakra that is irrelevant? Well, besides chakra there are other ways to get us to peak strength. Teme. A twitch of the eyebrow. That's it, what did you call me? Dust and sounds of fist flying smacking each other are heard. Children from nearby observe the scene. Sweat drop as the two continued to let their fist do the talking. The dust settles and both young minds are sitting Indian style with their backs to each other, arms crossed. Call me that name again and I promise you'll get more than a fat lip. Excuse me, duckbutt, you were the one who started it, Deadbayo. The two slowly looked at each other, huffed in annoyance. Okay, this fighting each other is getting us nowhere. Agreed. We need to train hard and make a list of events that is fresh in our minds we can write down, Sasuke suggested. Right. Who do we know that is hyperactive, knows how to train us in combat and is an expert in hand-to-hand combat? With eyes scrunched closed, Naruto and Sasuke began to ponder. They've spoken on who they need to save, but a list was in order to make. Right now getting to know each other is top priority, as well as making their bodies stronger for training regime. You know, I think I'm going to teach 2 new languages. Naruto paled. He turned to Sasuke, his posture relaxed, his eyes focused with determination written in them. If it was 2 things the blonde didn't excel was writing or reading, and learning always requires writing or reading or both. I am going to teach you both English y Espanol. What did you say? This was very foreign indeed. Sasuke Kei smirked. No, seriously, what did you say? The conversation was interrupted by a loud, youth. Both light bulbs went off in their heads, a foxy and mischievous grin plastered on their faces. I think we found our candidate.